season of Writers Roundtable, where I and my lovely panel of other writers get together and discuss things. Specifically
Things.
writer knowledge and skills that are not specifically writing, but everything else that writers need to know and to know how to do. That is everything else. Everything else that everybody normally just sort of, and other stuff. We're literally going to talk about all the other stuff. This is the entire point of Writers Roundtable. And so to help me today is my lovely panel of amazing folks. And there is the lovely, the talented, the fantastic Tom, Laura, and Charlie, and of course, the peanut gallery known as Chaos Demon.
He's out in the Angry Dome right now.
Is he yelling at the universe again?
Yes.
There are links. There will be more links once, because I didn't know who would show up today.
I just slink around, show up when I want.
But I always update after the show.
If you're not careful, Laura will emerge from the darkness and give you nightmares.
Even the bathtub's not safe.
Yes.
Well, hello, panelists, and thank you so much for showing up.
Thanks.
Let's talk about success making. Let's talk about what it means. Who wants to throw the first salvo across the bow? We can do hot takes. We can do anything you want. I don't care. I passed a kidney stone this weekend, and I am just here to coast.
I think the first thing that every writer needs to get through their head is that success is a slippery little devil and a lie, because you will be told this is success. And then once you do that, they'll be like, oh yeah, well, success is over there. And success is something you need to define for yourself so that you have a firm idea of what it is that you want, because just writing a book, yes, is a success in and of its own right.
Absolutely.
It is a hard, difficult thing to do, but it is not a career. It's just a finished written book. Editing a book is a success in its own way, but it is not everything that you need to do. Marketing is important. All of the things that you need to do, there are so many milestones in there. And then there are the lies, the horrible fictions that are put up in front of you. Like, you can be an award-winning writer. Most awards are purchased, or at least have a very high price that you have to pay to be in the running for.
Yes, Tom and I definitely wanted to talk about that at some point in this 3-hour podcast. About would you like to say that you are Pulitzer nominated, because it costs $500, and that's it to say you are Pulitzer nominated. And usually, in most categories, there's only 1 to 2, maybe 3 other contestants. So statistically speaking, you're doing pretty good. You actually have a decent chance of winning. But like, all awards are just another aspect of marketing and promotion. The Grammys are just sell records. The Emmys are to sell ad space. The Oscars are to sell movies and DVDs. That's all the awards are, is to sell books, to sell, ad space, whatever it is. It is not meant to say, hey, you're valid. It's meant to say, hey, you generate money or income. Cool.
But I think one of the biggest dangers in the measures for success that a lot of writers are still clinging onto is trad publishing. And it's not that that's a bad dream. If that is your dream, I'm not here to tell you not to follow your dreams. It's just you need to be very careful with how you are defining traditional publishing. Because more than likely, if you are going to achieve this, it's going to be through a small press, which the industry does not see as being traditionally published. The industry, as it stands, is, I don't even know, 1 company, 2 companies, 3 companies, 4. The math keeps changing because mergers, acquisitions, lawsuits saying, no, you can't merger. I don't know. There's only a couple large companies that control most of the imprints in the United States and around the world. And they're actually not all that interested in you or your book. They're interested in your platform. So that's why, if you wonder how is it that all of these celebrities that you don't know how they can string two words together could get a book deal, it's because they have a large platform that the company wants access to, because they know that their audience will buy anything with that person's face on it. And this is getting really, really troubling, especially in that one, fiction is being really deprecated by a lot of these companies because it's not where they're making their money. They're making their money from these, I'll be generous and use their term, memoirs that are not memoirs. They're ghost-written self-help books that may or may not mention some stuff from somebody's YouTube bio or TikTok bio in passing along the way. But that's where they're making their money. And anytime you're trying to get into a business, you have to understand the nature of that business. And traditional publishing, especially the way it is going, is really just about making money off of celebrity. It is merch. It is not a product in and of itself. And if you don't understand the difference between merch and product, you're going to have a hard time understanding where the industry is heading. Merch is anything that's basically put out there because people want stuff with that brand on it, and they don't really care much what it is. It's just they want to identify with that brand. They want artifacts with that brand on it in their home. A product is a thing that technically should be able to sell itself. A good book, and this is the lie we're all told, a good book should sell itself because it's so good, people will start talking about it, and word of mouth will get started. We'll talk about word of mouth later. But the way the industry, especially traditional publishing, is looking at writers, they are brand platforms that they are producing merch for. Some of that merch may be good. But a lot of it is just that. It's just, oh, you have a platform. People want to know what you have to say. But you can really see this with some YouTubers and authors, and they're not really author tubers, but they talk about writing on their channel. Like if you called them an author tuber to their face, they would get insulted because they're not one of them. You know the kinds that have gotten these traditional publishing book deals and have been extremely disillusioned because they don't care about the quality of the book. They care about how their channel is growing, how their platform is growing. I know of at least one who lost their book deal because their channel hit a slump and they were no longer deemed a viable product. And so the book was canceled. And
they can do that.
They can do that. But that's not understanding the nature of the industry as it is right now.
It's also just that we talk about slippery slope. I just think of it as the moving goalpost of what is success to you. And if you don't write it down and negotiate it with yourself, you will always be in pursuit of it instead of ever attaining it and going, all right, what's the next success I want?
I'm I believe the old here. So speaking from my experience,
how dare you.
Speaking from experience, I can say goals are not always as satisfying as you think they will be when you achieve them. And it may be because it took so much effort to get to the place that you are getting to. By the time you get there, you're just so tired and worn out that celebration is not physically, mentally available to you because, yay, I made it. Good night now. Like you're just collapsing in on yourself, or because it wasn't what you thought it was going to be when you arrived. Like some of those really fancy restaurants that you get there and you're like, man, I wish I was at McDonald's. At least I would have gotten something edible.
Yeah.
And
happen of like, we could be in the drive-thru for Wendy's right now.
Yeah.
Let's just go. Like literally I have been at a 3-star restaurant in New Orleans being like, if we leave now, we could be in the drive-thru at Wendy's in less than 10 minutes. Let's just go. And like, here, take our money. Here, just take cash. Bye. We're leaving. You don't want to go? No, I don't want any of that crap. This food is awful. I will never come back.
And that's really the trick that you need to be working on and negotiating with yourself so that you know that, yes, I've actually achieved what I wanted. Because the other thing that can really get you is when you hit an achievement and other people don't see it as an achievement, it can feel deflating if you are not certain, no, this is what I wanted. If you don't get the reaction, a lot of us make our goals, and especially in the writing community, off this weird idea that we will get some kind of acclaim or recognition for what we are doing and what we've done. Even if it's not like foremost in your consciousness, even if you're not like in full narcissism mode going, one day everyone will see my greatness. There's still this idea that, well, George R.R. Martin is on Colbert, right? So maybe I can get these symbols of acceptance and acclaim from society and culture. Yeah, but he didn't get on Colbert because he wrote great books. His books are merch for a TV show that was very popular.
Yeah, he was never on when it was just the books.
Yes.
He is promoting a product for HBO that he is legally required to assisted promotion for in order to maintain his contract with HBO. And
so
that's the only reason why Colbert even wants him on there is, again, the show is mainstream. His books are not.
Yep.
And that's why he was never on Colbert or really David Letterman, any kind of talk shows. Like often before there was a show, because his books were not mainstream. I can't tell you before Game of Thrones actually came out, but when it was like the buzz was just starting for it on HBO before the first season came out, so many patrons would come into the library like, hey, yeah, I've heard about Game of Thrones, and that it's a book. So I thought maybe I'd come in and read it. I hear there's dragons, right? And we like, here's the first one, or here's we had made a stand, a whole little display.
A reinforced stand.
People take a look at that first book, go, never mind. And then would go, just their eyes would slide right off and go back to Tom Clancy. Like I can't tell you, like, honestly, the books would check out 1 out of every 8 people who came for the book would actually check it out. They would just slide right off. Wait, every one of the books is bigger than the biggest obnoxious hamburger? No, thank you.
And I think that that's where people get really confused when they're setting up their goal for I want to be traditionally published. It may be completely subconscious. It may not be something that you're actively thinking to yourself, but there's often this part of, well, this is how I get my Netflix deal or my development deal to go to series. This is how I get to be a celebrity. Like, this is my ticket onto that train. And that doesn't happen for writers. Like, if Salman Rushdie did not have a fatwa against him, no one would have known his name. His books
Nobody gave a crap about his books till he had a fatwa against him.
Isabella Allende gets to be on all of the shows whenever she puts a book out because, well, do you know the dark history of her father and how he was killed in a coup? Like, she has this other thing that makes her interesting to the people that are having her on, so she gets to go on and talk about her books and stuff like that. But they're always asking political questions about South America because that's why they really have her there, because she is the daughter of a deposed leader of a South American country, right? When you actually look at why people are getting invited into these places of acclaim, it's not that they were traditionally published. They have a something else on the side. Like, when you're looking at, like, I just lost his name, but it's not that important because, again, I'm not the biggest fan of his books, but the Ready Player One guy, when he was getting interviewed for everything, it wasn't because of the book. The book had been out for, 10 years by that point? It's because Steven Spielberg was making a movie. And it was marketing for the Steven Spielberg movie that got him there.
Mm.
And that can be a really hard pill for a lot of people to swallow, to realize that they are marketing for someone else's derivative product based on their work. Like, if you are really interested in traditional publishing, maybe there's a good reason. If you're writing for children, it's easier to get into schools, into libraries, into the places where a lot of children's books are consumed if you are going through traditional publishing. There is a reason for that. There's a legitimate reason for that. But if you're writing supernatural romance or any of the more popular genres, you really need to interrogate, why do I want to be in this position? Why do I want to go traditional with this? Because if it's those other things, that celebrity status, that acceptance from the mainstream, odds are, even if you get in the door, which the odds are not stacked in your favor already, unless you have some kind of a platform that you're bringing to them. But even if you have a story that they can market, think about it. That's why, what's his name? Paolini, the Aragon guy, became popular. He was a 16-year-old author. That was a story they could market and go, look how good we are. We found this kid who's writing these large fantasy books. He was a story that they could market.
And then writing himself into a corner each book.
But the marketing was never about his books. It was about that story.
Yeah, it's true. They didn't talk about the magic system and the confusions and the problems as they developed. No. They just talked about such a young writer.
To this day, any article you see about him will start with who published it when he was 16.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the marketable part of his story. Child prodigy. We love a child prodigy if we can manufacture one. And that's a label that got foisted on him. And so it's not the books or the writing that he's getting any of that acclaim for. So you have to really interrogate yourself. If you're looking for trad publishing, what do you want out of that? They're probably not going to give you the suite of editors that you think that they're going to get, because this isn't the olden days anymore. So it's horrifying how many traditional books are coming out with really egregious spelling, grammar, and just errors in them that nobody proofed the book before they went out. I have gotten a couple books recently that start over in the middle because whoever did the copy paste into the file that went to printer messed up. And it's the first half of the book, and then the book starts again and goes through to the end of the book. If you're looking for professionalism, if you're looking for all of that quality to help be brought into your work, a lot of these publishing houses are not providing that anymore. Because again, the book is not the product. The marketing is what they're interested in. The book is just merch.
Yeah. And that's sort of what we wanted to talk about today, about finding, figure out your success. What is it that will make you feel validated and happy with what you're doing? What is it you really want out of it? And then how do we get that for you? Because as Gordon and I were talking last night, one of the things that people don't really want to voice out loud, but is the honest answer of what's the validation, what's the reason they're writing, what is their, what does success look like for them? And that is their family to respect them for what they're doing. And so, yes, that's where let's go find you some awards to say. And so that you can say, you are an award-winning author, because to your family, just winning awards shows that obviously you have to be good if people in your profession are saying you're good. Versus, do you want to make a living off of it? Then let's look at something entirely different for how to make a living. Because awards and making a living are two entirely separate concepts and methodologies.
So if you want to make a living, this is a business. And you need to be thinking about your business and how you're managing your business and not be looking for accolades. Like, that is the difference. And that's one of the things that Tom and I really wanted to discuss is if you are looking to support yourself, support your family, then what you are saying is, I would like to start a small business, which that is absolutely valid. And that is something you definitely can do. But you have to understand the approach to running your own business. Everybody thinks when I run my own business, I'm going to be in charge. No. I hate to break it to everybody. When you run your own business, everyone else is in charge of you. You are serving everyone else. Whether we're talking B2B or B2C, B2C being business to customer or business to client, depending on the business model we're talking about, and B2B is business to business. But when you are a business owner and you are running a business, you are serving everyone. Everyone feels the need to tell you their opinion, and you need to be nice and polite and say thank you for your feedback. And I don't care that you go home and you yell about it, but to their face, thank you so much for your feedback. And then you actually need to implement something about it or be able to come back and explain, this is why at this point we are not able to implement your feedback, but we are looking at it in the future, because the bottom line is you still need to be grateful for the feedback even when you hate the feedback. So again, running your own business, which I understand, I have run several of my own businesses, and much to my surprise, the majority of them have been successful. In fact, the one that I am struggling with is my writing business, but that is not my business's fault. That has more to do with my chronic illness and pain and being sick so often. Like, I'm not able to give it as much time as my business baby honestly needs. So that is not the business's fault on that. So I have had to move my goalposts of what are the goals several times, because some of my goals were time sensitive. But again, being able to look at it that way, where you have a business model and you are doing constant market research, you are constantly checking in with your demographics about what they're into. You are following the same groups that your demographics, your target demographics are following. So you know what their appeal, what is appealing to them, what they want out of it, because guess what? Their interests are going to change every 2 to 3 years. Their interest in the visuals are going to change. All of this is going to keep changing, and you've got to stay up on it. That is very different from I am here to win awards. That is so different. That is an absolutely different business model.
And this is also why a lot of fiction writers, if you want a long-term career, and I hate to say this, but there is a lot of marketing research that shows this to be true. If your target market is not teenage boys and people that still have similar taste, it can be hard to develop that lifelong audience. Teen boys, for the most part, will like what they like for the rest of their life. That's why they're doing a big reunion for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, where they're going to do a much more adult series. They're bringing back the original cast. They're doing a lot with it. Now, that's not to say that girls aren't like that, but as a group, there isn't as much imprinting that happens in an AFAB brain or in a feminine brain. Women tend to have their taste change and develop as they grow older. Most men, and the question is whether this is biological or acculturation, tend to just, whatever it is that they like, that is what they like, and they stick there. So if you are wondering why are the Marvel movies the biggest things ever, because there are literally generations of boys that grew up with Marvel comics that are now taking their kids to see the movies.
And from a demographics point of view, now the sub-generations are 4 years in length each. So again, these are things that marketers, as a marketer, if you're trying to self-support, you got to start thinking about. Essentially, each round of high school, they're just coming out like little groups of 4 years. So like with Gen Z, 22 to 26, 18 to 22, and so on. You've got to be thinking about this, but you are going to be very challenged to both run a business to self-support and win awards at the same time. I'm not saying it cannot be done. but I'm saying you're going to need a lot more resources, both financial as well as actual people, like man hours helping you, because it's two separate tracks that you are trying to run at the same time. And it is a challenge versus you run one track till you get that set and then you run the other track. That's fine. And yes, more than likely you can do that mostly by yourself and just with occasional hires to like temporarily help you with something. But to do both at the same time, you are going to need multiple people in your business. Eva says, I'm not a romance reader, but many I love are, and they are just like, OMG, this book was so bad, you got to read it. Yeah. They do love the whole so bad it's good, the like
So bad it's entertaining.
beast romances and all sorts of wild stuff. Spence says, we'll put up with a large pile of BS for the right vibes. Yep.
And like another thing I always feel like, especially those on AuthorTube, really need to keep track of and understand for what they want out of success is, you know, it's most easily related. Let's talk about Laura's new book coming out.
What?
So Laura's been working for the last 2 years on, learning to write shorter side of, thriller horror in so many different forms. And, has accumulated enough, and she's made a book. And then she commissioned and paid for illustrations and cover design.
And a developmental editor and a copy editor and a formatter.
Because for her, this is part of her internal signs of success to herself for this book.
Didn't you also hire someone else to make your book trailer?
Yes.
Yeah. There was a lot of people that spent a little time on Laura's team.
But it was so that she can really feel that she gave this book her all. This book's job is not actually to win awards, and its job is not actually to recoup all of its cost.
No.
That was going in knowing it was, I want to know, essentially Laura wanted to go in knowing she had truly made a book to everything she thought of as a book.
I wanted a book I could be proud of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that was the success.
Well, as well as you mentioned to me, Laura, that you also were wanting to work on your quote back catalog to start establishing a catalog of books that you could say, behold my stack.
So for Tiny Shivers, it all kind of snowballed from reading a craft book and finding out about flash fiction and falling in love with the form. And it just went from there. And I still do. I want to get my middle grade traditionally published. But to get something traditionally published in your query letter, it's beneficial to have publishing credits of I've been published here, I've been published there. And so all of these flash fictions and drabbles and short stories, I started submitting to publications. And by doing that, I was able to get publication credits to my name, get a little bit of income, and be like, I am a published author. I guess it's traditional publishing because they're very small presses. But they did pay me for my story, and some of them are free. But, yeah, and so I'm just combining them all. So 14 of the 101 stories have been published elsewhere first. And my goal was make it something I'm proud of, that I would be proud to market. Be like, yeah, go buy it. It's okay. It's actually decent. And so my goal was to sell 20 copies. I knew going in, I am doing this at a loss, and I have a day job. I have a full-time career, and so I have income. And so this was all extra income that I had. I did not want to go into debt making this book. So I had the wiggle room of having all of this extra income. And so I have income. And so this was all extra income that I had. I did not want to go into debt making this book. So I had the wiggle room of having all of this extra income that I had. I did not want to go into debt making this book. So I had the wiggle room of having all of this extra income that I had. I did not want to go into debt making this book. So I had the wiggle room of having all of this extra income that I had. I did not want to go into debt making this book. So I had the wiggle room of having all of this extra income that I had. I did not want to go into debt making this book. So I had the wiggle room of having all of this extra income that I had. I did not want to go into debt making this book. So I had the wiggle room of having all of this extra income that I had. I did not want to go into debt making this book. So I had the wiggle room of having all of this extra income that I had. I did not want to go into debt making this book. So I had the wiggle room of having all of this extra income that I had. I did not want to go into debt making this book. So I had the wiggle room of having all of this extra income that like, I don't know, like I had all these nights because I don't have kids or family with me. So it's just me and my dog. So I can write until the sun shines. And then I have to roll out of bed, roll into the living room and work. But like I had all this time to write. I had a stable, mostly stable. I did get laid off because of the pandemic, but we ran out of movie footage to work on. So yeah, that was fun. But like I had resources to work with, and so I just utilized them on where I thought would be best. So I found somebody that gave developmental feedback that I trusted. So I hired them. They gave me feedback for the whole book. And through word of mouth, talking to people like Becca C. Smith, I heard about another publisher who could do good copy edits that found errors in a book that they had copy edited by somebody else. And so they had it copy edited again. And so by this person. So I went with that. And I'm happy with the results. And then, yeah, it's just been snowballing from there. So my measure of success, first off, is am I proud of my book? And second of all, can I sell 20 copies? So I have met both criteria now. I am happy.
Woohoo!
So, yeah.
I mean, but you set out knowing what it was you wanted to, what success would look like for you, and then what do you need to do to obtain them.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's, so you could actually find success.
Yeah.
Versus, where was it? Oh, yeah. Versus how many times have we seen this play out of, one author paid $7,000 for editors. And it's like, do you know how many books you would have to sell to make that back and make it worth
if
all
your
of it?
goal is to make it back?
Yeah.
Versus,
well, and I know which one they're talking about. Like, yeah, this person thought like this is going to pay for itself. Plus, of start their career with a bang, and it's like
Yeah,
that's
that would have to be like a USA Today bestseller.
Yeah,
they actually are based off of book sales, like the New York Times, to make that back.
Oh, I knew another one that did, huh? I guess $7,000 is just one of those number people paying editing.
Frequent, a tale as old as AuthorTube.
Yeah. It's like, it was expensive to get it edited, but mine was only $55,000 long. So it's like, I can't even imagine for a $150,000 book. Like, oh.
So I feel like I should explain when I said that small press may not be considered traditional publishing. When I said that earlier, just so you all understand where I'm coming from with that. A lot of what you're going to be using your publication credits for, like Laura said, is basically clout. They are references that you are putting on to various documents to say, you should trust me, I am definitely a writer, these people said so. They're credentials. And outside of some of my early stuff, most of my, I guess you would call it traditional published work, has been through small presses. And I have had bookers say that they tell me to my face, I've never heard of them. That's not real. So that's when I'm saying that small press may not be considered traditional publishing. There are a lot of places that do have up a firewall that's no indie published authors beyond this point. And their quality level for whether or not you are traditionally published is if they have heard of the publisher that published you. Yeah. It's not, here I can show you their LLC, here's their website. A lot of these places do not care to do the research. They're not there to do the research. This is their binary check on you. Have I heard of who you are claiming published you or not? Do I accept this as a valid accreditation of you as a traditionally published author?
And really, if you want to get traditionally published, that is where your very first goal really becomes how obtaining an agent, because they are the go-between. Traditional publishers have no interest in writers.
Yep.
They are looking for people who are already going to do the sifting for them and only bring what they are looking for to them. And that is where an agent comes in. And so it's then you need to go look up, how do I obtain an agent, and what do those agents want to see for me to represent me?
So for my middle grade that I was querying, I do have a extended flash short story of my middle grade that got published in a Australian anthology for youngsters, for middle grade stories, and I'm in there. I'm published with it got accepted, and so I have proof of concept that this story is desirable even in a short form. So I have that in my query letter, which my query letter did really good. It's just my pages were not quite what most of them were looking like. I did get a request, but it didn't pan out. So it was enough to hook agents' interest to see oh, hey, there might be something here is worth checking out at least the first 10 pages.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's what we're really trying to get at is, what is it going to be success for you? Because it's really sad and disheartening when you hear all these people, they have a general concept, essentially when you hear a 10-year-old say what they want out of success, but they then didn't research what does that take to obtain. And so what they've been working on for the last few years is not in the direction for that success.
And it's really important for you to have that written down, to have that firm understanding. And so back in the day, before my unscheduled mental health vacation, I got to a point in my career where I knew out the gate a new book for me would sell about 1,000 to 2,000 copies in the first week. That's really, really good. That's really, really good. If you don't think that that's a really good number, you need to check yourself on what you think book sales actually look like. Those are really good numbers. But in my brain, that was not the success I was looking for. And so I pushed myself harder and harder and harder until I hit burnout. Complete. I'm not talking about I felt like I wasn't achieving my goals, so it was hard to work. No. I mean, my brain shut down. I was catatonic for a year. Burnout. My brain refused to fire the synapses. If I didn't have a valid support system around me, I would have faded into non-existence from that point. And it was only because I had not said, if I had known now what the actual publishing industry looks like, I would have known I was a very successful writer. I would have known that on the sales numbers. I had people contacting me about my books and asking me questions. So on a personal level, I had people that were interested in what I was writing. It wasn't just people were reading it and going on to the next thing. I had a fan base. I had the things that I wanted, but because I was chasing this amorphous idea of what success looked like, I kept pushing and pushing and pushing myself to the point where I almost did not live through it. Because if you don't know what you're getting if you don't know what you're working on, it takes a lot of work to get to the place where as an individual, you can sell that many books. That's a lot of work. And I was the only one doing it. I was doing the podcast to get the promotion out. I was doing all of the interviews in all of the places that I needed to do. I was writing short stories to go out to a lot of other publications to get them to mention my book in the little blurb about the author, to get reader magnets, to get people in. I was doing a lot to build up and get that success for each one. But because it was not enough, because I had not allowed myself to see that it was enough, I ran headfirst into the realm of self-destruction, and it was.
I mean, you end up if you don't have awareness of the surroundings of what you're attempting, then it instantly becomes a Sisyphean task, and it will always be rolling it uphill. Versus the reality of, you've rolled up so many hills already. It's just they happen to be in a row, so you keep going higher and higher. You just don't even know how tall you are now. Why don't you look back while holding it up for a moment and appreciate the scene? it's really pretty up here. You don't realize.
And I didn't appreciate any of that. Like when I look back at the numbers that I had then, I was on a podcast that had 20,000 weekly downloads every time an episode came out. That's huge for podcasting. It wasn't successful in my mind because I'm thinking TV numbers. I'm not getting hundreds of thousands. It's not to success yet because I didn't understand what the industry looked like. 2,000 copies. I didn't know how much books sold. I just knew what my royalty checks looked like. And I was like, this is not success. If this is what the royalties on this is, right? So I talked myself into a mental health crisis because I didn't have this understanding up front. And that's really why this is such an important thing for you to figure out. Because if you think it's that traditional publishing thing, if you have a evil editor, it's going to sour the experience and could trigger a mental health crisis in you that you are not expecting from that point. Because nothing is more shattering to a human than achieving what they think is their goal and having it not meet the standards that they have set for themselves.
Yep. I mean, that literally happened to me when I was writing for Dime Magazine. I did not realize it, but at the time that I was writing the articles for Dime Magazine, I was the highest paid writer at Dime, period. But because I was the highest paid writer, essentially I was their feature. I was the reason I was told by this after Dime closed its doors. I was told by like what a third of our city of the greater metro area is like about 70,000 people. A third of people, like people just stop and constantly go, oh wait, when they see my debit card, the server's like, oh, your Glory thing. We used to only pick up your magazine because of your articles. And I did not feel like a success because I was making $50 an article. And it was taking me 20 hours to write each art, to research them and write them and edit them and then pull all the pictures and do all that work. And I'm making $50 and I am exhausted because I'm already working a toxic job at the library. And then I'm coming home and I'm doing this and it is just wearing me out. But to all the other writers, they all aspired to be me. And there I am, miserable as hell. And Dime wouldn't put any of my articles on their website, so I couldn't show anybody what I was doing because they wanted to drive traffic to the physical magazine because it's their business. But it's like, but I can't show anything to anybody because none of my articles are online. And now I've got to wait 3 years for the contract to run out before I can then repost my articles online. This was several years ago, and all of like the contracts have all timed out, so I can even talk about it. But like that is what happened, and that is just a normal aspect of being a writer. So you really need to take a long, hard, very pessimistic view of the industry you are trying to work so that you know when you are on top.
I mean,
it will not feel like nobody's going to come and hand you a trophy and go, congratulations, you're at the top of your industry. Nobody's going to do that unless your industry is making a shit ton of money. And so they're like, here, have an award. But until you get to that, nobody's going to do that. So again, you won't necessarily realize you're at the top unless you already are familiar with it. And I really honestly did not know anything about magazine industry in the 20 teens. When I was writing for Dime, it was the middle of the 20 teens. And I was no longer familiar with the industry. I had gotten out of the magazine market and aspiring to be in the magazine market way back when E. Jean Carroll wrote for Cosmo.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then, by the way, I did get to work for E. Jean Carroll. That's right. That woman sent me checks for what I did for her. Okay? She has paid me. And by the way, she did pay almost on time. So, accolades to her. But, like, if you don't know what is realistic success in your industry or your sub-industry, how can you take a step back and survey the land and go, behold, I have traversed all of this and I have made it to the top.
I mean,
guess what? Nobody else is gonna be up there.
I mean, as Eva's pointing out, and Gloria and I and Charlie, I don't know if Laura's actually seen the graphics of this.
Yeah.
But what Eva's pointing out about, is romance is much easier to sell just because there's more people buying it.
Mm-hmm.
There is literally at this point twice as many people buying romance as there is every other form of writing combined.
Yep.
That's how much bigger the market is for romance. It is the true 800-pound gorilla in the kindergarten playground.
And this is also
writing at this point. So yeah, 20 pre-orders for a horror anthology is excellent.
So let me explain again. I'm going to go over this. Just like these are the numbers that are actually rather easy for me to keep track of my head. Okay, here it goes. Think of the romance genre, and all of those readers are more than every other genre in the English-speaking world combined.
Yep.
So more than literary, more than contemporary, more than YA, more than horror, more than all. Okay. And by the way, I saw a new stat a couple weeks ago that also put college textbooks in there as a genre, which is wild, but okay, you live your life. And it's still romance readers are larger of a base of actual eyeballs on books than all the other book publishing genres combined. And I don't mean like, oh, it's half and half. No. So again, think about that, because after romance, the next genre is college textbooks. Okay? So just stay with me. And horror is all the way down at the teeny tiny tip of the graph, right? All the way.
It goes back and forth between horror and history. Which one is the smaller?
Well, whenever there's like a new speculative fiction about the Civil fucking War, then that's, okay, anyway, I'm fine. But yeah, like horror does play around with speculative historical. But I just want you to think about that. Like, so yeah, 20 pre-orders on a horror. Mwah, fantastic.
Yeah, pretty.
Even if you happen to know every single person by name already who purchased.
I don't.
Oh, good on you. But like, seriously, even if you did, that would not negate the validity of 20 pre-orders in a horror genre, because the purchasing eyeballs for horror is so teeny tiny compared to all the other genres. It's like, oh no, be proud, pat yourself on the back. Go, gender, you did great job.
What's the mold?
And this is where you need to do something that is really hard for us humans to do, and that's develop a sense, what I would call your professional ethics, because you need to be able to ask yourself honestly, will I think less of myself in the future if I do this thing now? Because a lot of the tips that I see coming out in a lot of writing circles are things that are sabotaging future you. They're things that either you will look back on and go, oh God, I can't believe I did that. There are things that you may not be able to live down in the future, should you do them.
Releasing things before they're ready, type of thing.
So that's part that's part of it. There's also the whole, like, the land rushes that happen when, for example, the really, I don't know how to describe his work. The let's just say overly creative erotica was the genre du jour that everyone was talking about. Yeah. You may not care whether or not
the coronavirus book,
like shape-shifting erotica, like in all the there were all sorts of wow.
You may not care at this point in your life if a pseudonym of yours is associated with that, but this is the world we live in now. People are going to find out who you are. Like this is the world that we live in. Is that something that future you will be okay with? Is that something that future you will be all right with having done? Because you don't want to sabotage your future mental well-being for momentary, it's not even really success, it's financial gain now. Because capitalism has gotten us to confuse success with financial gain. If you just need to make the pennies and you're willing to live with whatever you need to do to get the pennies, get the pennies. I am not going to judge on that because capitalism is an evil game that is holding us all down. But this is an industry that there are a lot of ways to make good, quick, fast money that you are literally selling your soul to do.
Literally, huh?
Literally. I can't talk about a lot of opportunities that I've had in life because the other thing that isn't talked about in this industry enough is how many NDAs have to be signed to do various things.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, like I was supposed to sign an NDA for Dime, and I was like, no, I just won't write for y'all. I thought you needed writers. And suddenly, guess what? All the top brass changed their mind. I'm like, that's okay. Yeah.
So that's something you need to ask yourself. Are you willing to sign an NDA? Are you willing to know things, sometimes things that you feel should go out into the world and be said, knowing that if you say them, you have already agreed to pay $10,000 or more to whoever you sign that agreement with for the right to say it. Because that's what the NDA says in them. You cannot say this, or you are already agreeing you're going to give me this financial penalty, and you cannot go to court. We are going to pick an arbitrator in the venue of our choice. And you need to ask yourself up front, can you, because you don't know what you're going to learn on the other side of that NDA. You don't know what is on the other side of that you are going to be asked to do or instructed is going to happen. And then you have to really fight to get out of a contract. You don't know what's on the other side of that NDA. Are you willing to sign that NDA? Are you willing to live with the ramifications of that? What are your ethics? You need to know what will destroy you in the future. Because having an OnlyFans now could make some money if you're young and not even young, if you are of the persuasion that gets an audience on the OnlyFans, right? But 20, 30 years from now, you do need to ask yourself the question, would you be okay with your kids knowing that you made money that way if you're going to have kids? Because they will find out. This is the internet. That is what happens. Will you be okay if your future spouse knows? What about your in-laws? Will you be able to live with that kind of judgment? Because whether it should be judged or not, that's what our culture does.
One of my favorite historical fashion YouTubers has an OnlyFans for ankle pictures.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, she's hilarious. Oh, but it still has a stigma of if they find out you have an OnlyFans, they don't know that's what you're posting to it.
No, they don't necessarily know, and they're not necessarily even going to go look to verify. They're just going to and they pass on. Yeah. It's the thing to be aware of. So, like, for instance, if you wish to be a middle grade writer and the publisher finds out you have an OnlyFans, even if you are merely having socked and stockinged ankle pictures.
Yeah.
Or as I and Tom were thinking of, it's merely pictures of smoked meat, literal smoked chuck roast. Okay. No human body parts. And yet it's like, did you have an OnlyFans of smoked meat? Well, our company just does not associate with that. And that's it. It's an arbitrary policy decision. It's not a realistic decision.
And you may be going, this is a dumb way to live your life. And to which I say, I know of actual environmental groups that if you've had a gasoline car, they will fire you, disvalue, because you have been part of the problem. They can't associate with you.
Yes.
And so you need to have a firm sense of your own ethics. And I agree with Eva that naughty work is never shameful. I agree wholeheartedly. What I'm saying is it can be an impediment for certain types of jobs.
It was a decision Tom and I made with our eyes wide open about starting up this YouTube channel and discussing autism, because we knew that it would automatically preclude us from qualifying for a wide variety of corporate and government employment if we were out about any autism interest or diagnosis. Even though my autism diagnosis was made when I was 6 at a very questionable facility where the psychiatrist involved was eventually very quietly removed. And he was a Nepo baby anyway, but that's a whole nother matter. Like, it doesn't matter. It's just if you admit to it versus my parents swore me to secrecy. And it wasn't until after they died that I was like, you know, they're dead. So do I still have to keep a promise to a dead person? But that the reason they swore me to secrecy was they wanted me to have that potential future for whatever I wanted. I had other diagnoses later as like at 19 and 20 that when I was interested in working for the Pentagon, found out it would, if the Pentagon found out about these diagnoses from therapists, I wouldn't be able to get a job at the Pentagon. And I told my therapist, and guess which file? She's like, a terrible thing has happened, Glory. About a month later, she told me, I was like, what? What terrible thing? She's like, there was a break-in at one of our facilities, and it just so happens your file was over there for scanning, and it was apparently one of the files that was taken. Do you think that my safety is now in jeopardy? She's like, no, we're not actually sure why anyone would take files, but a bunch of them went missing. So on the other hand, the Pentagon can't request your files anymore because we don't have any. And I'm like, huh, it's kind of funny how life works out. She's like, yeah, isn't it? And then we just went back to talking about what I was there for therapy, which is to learn coping skills. But like, as I said, these are real things to be concerned about. And I'm not telling anybody, no, don't go to therapy. Don't work in the sex industry. I myself have worked as a phone sex operator under my mother's account when I was 19 years old.
Don't write romance novels or stories.
Let alone under your name. People think, oh, I'm going to write under a pseudonym. They always find out. They always trace it back. So again, it's something to just be consciously aware of. It's not that we're trying to talk anybody out of anything.
Oh, definitely not.
Let alone any creative pursuits. Also, if you want to be a phone sex operator, you live your life. It's actually super fun. And most of the time I just talked about my day in grocery shopping. Good times. But yeah, like for any of the like happy fun time, it was like, Mom, you take the phone. Ended up, I mean, I was a virgin back then, y'all. I did not know anything. All I knew about Happy Fun Time was what I'd read in romance novels, and that turns out to have been mostly written by ace people, and they also had no idea. So,
why are you coming for me?
But I'm just saying, like, I don't want to talk you out of it. I want you to go in fully informed and consenting, rather than, oh, nobody told me that this might have ramifications later. I absolutely understand. I didn't know there would be ramifications to various things till somebody said something to me. That's why we're mentioning it, because in due diligence, we need to mention there are ramifications. If you write dinosaur romance, there are ramifications potentially.
Yes, you are Chuck Tingle.
What?
Yeah, and again, and he's a medical doctor, an actual practicing doctor, and he's like, I cannot write under my own name. I cannot have anybody know what I look like, because he wants to keep his practice. Mm-hmm. But he loves writing, I was seduced by a pole. I don't know, there's some wild stuff. I love them all.
I have a velociraptor.
So a good example, just on what Gloria is saying, like about being realistic. One of my goals is I want to be a tie-in writer. There are a lot of franchises. I want to be in the room where it happened. I want to be in there. I want to write a High Republic book. I love the High Republic. I want to be a part of this. I want to be in the room. That's something that I have been striving for a while. I have a lot of friends who are professional tie-in writers. And the first thing that they will tell you is you will never be a traditionally published writer again. You may still have books come out, but no one will take you seriously because, oh, you also wrote 4. It's a scarlet letter that will always be on your record, and you have to ask yourself, are you okay with that? Personally, I would love to see an officially printed Star Wars book that has my name on the bottom of it. That's a victory for me and a win, and I'm willing to take that because my other fiction is never going to be mainstream successful anyway. So it's I'm not taking anything from myself, but I'm going into that with my eyes wide open. I know what I'm doing. I know I have friends that are in that industry, and I know how that will affect me should I actually achieve this thing for me, which is actually a goal in my life. That for a lot of people who wouldn't know that, who might get the opportunity to write that kind of fiction and be like, "Oh, a paycheck for writing in a setting that I enjoy." Yeah, but that's going to make it actually harder for your original fiction to get out there. Timothy Zahn is a great writer. He is forever the Star Wars writer, even though his independent and the stuff that he did on his own, the non-Star Wars stuff, is really good.
Yeah,
but he is the Star Wars writer, and that's
liked my Lady Loki costume. I met him at a con.
Christopher Golden is a great writer. I love a lot of his horror writing, but he is the Buffy writer because he got made a living and helped support his kids by writing the official Buffy tie-in, a lot of the official Buffy tie-in books. And so it's hard for him to get credibility in, say, the horror writers of America, which are where you go to get opportunities if you want to get into the industry because, oh, you're that Buffy writer.
And they can be rather cliquish.
Yeah. And you need to know these things going into it. That's why we're trying to bring the realistic guide. Like we are trying to show you eyes wide open. This industry is middle school in every respect of the terms. There are tables that you can sit at and tables that if you sit at them, you will be persona non grata at some of the other tables for the rest of time.
That's true.
Because we have this like capitalistic lie in our heads that business is business. And so if it's good for the bottom line, why wouldn't somebody do it? Oh, all kinds of personal reasons. Like I'm not going to say that it was anti-Semitism involved in the situation, but when Joe Straczynski pitched Babylon 5 to the people at Paramount, we know that behind the scenes there were people that had a personal grudge against him, which is why they did not buy it, and then made a knockoff show of it. Which, by the way, perfectly legal, as long as it's different enough from the original idea. And theirs was different enough because he talked to a lot of lawyers.
Well, essentially, it was they didn't mind losing. It was they could make some money if it goes well, but they didn't mind losing this opportunity because they knew if he tried to pursue anything, he would entirely lose the entire project, and he would never make anything, and he would be out of the industry.
There's a lot of personal pettiness in the back end of all of these prestigious professional institutions that is not very openly discussed. And so you need to, again, realistic guide to writing success. You need to know what you're getting into and know if that's what you really want to be getting into.
So we're going to take a bio break. It's not a long one, just a 10-minute little breaky break. Tom, when we come back, what should we discuss?
Let's talk about
Laura. You got an opinion?
how to get some of these successes.
Okay, what you got, Laura?
How to celebrate your successes when you do get them.
Truly, you do have to acknowledge them.
Yes, you absolutely have to. In the meantime, during our little bio break, I would like to recommend, do you have something to drink? We are a hydrate or dihydrate kind of crowd. Also, is it time for a snack? It may be time for a snack. If you're thinking hard, it's definitely time for a snack because your brain needs glucose. We'll see y'all in just a few minutes. Me, 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 me. Me, 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 me. Moo, me, me, boo. Moo, me, me, boo, me, me, boo, me, me, boo.
What you drinking?
Orange juice and pineapple juice.
How dare.
Oh, it's so yummy.
Ah. Just
And
need some
Tom,
guava.
Tom made me some oatmeal and some
Sausages!
Yes.
I want sausages.
So yes, some little cinnamon oatmeal and some of these adorable little guys.
Jealous.
Oh, you should be.
I know. I am.
But you can put it on your grocery list.
Well, I'm leaving town on Wednesday.
Oh yeah, good point. You're just gonna have to suffer with the food you still have in the house.
I'm gonna have to suffer with Disney food. Dang it.
Oh no.
Whatever shall I do? So excited. There's a place in Animal Kingdom at Disney called
Mhm.
8 Spoon Cafe, and their
Mhm.
specialty are macaroni and cheese with
Ooh.
different toppings. So I have been craving the pulled pork mac and cheese since the first picture I ever saw of it.
Nice.
And it's been years and I've never had it.
Yum.
I need pulled pork mac and cheese. They have really good pulled pork mac and cheese here, but it's not within walking distance from where I live now.
Mm.
It's like, and I don't know if the shack survived the pandemic closures.
These words that you keep saying are like making me want what you're saying. That I'm not going to say out loud because we have a rule in the house, and if I say it out loud, I will be responsible for making it.
Exactly. I think I'll have pierogies tonight.
Ooh.
I have some
Those things which I also cannot say because I will then be responsible for making them sound delicious.
Pulled pork though is so easy to make at home, y'all.
Oh, it is.
The
Like-
problem is you have to have pork.
You do need a pork butt.
Yeah.
It's even easier if you have a pressure cooker. Like it is crazy easy if you have an electric pressure cooker. Because you just, depending on the size of your pork butt, you just need 1 to 2 bottles of your favorite barbecue sauce and maybe a little bit of water or beer and the pork butt. And you just cook that baby and then you shred it.
Oh,
That's it.
forks.
All the forks. Or you can let it cool a little bit and actually just put on gloves and use your hands, honestly.
That requires patience.
Yeah, see, that's where a lot of people stumble. I'll
Yes.
be honest. It's true.
I made a list.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Of what?
When to celebrate and things you can do to celebrate.
Mm. Why don't you get it started?
Okay. I don't need to write it. I can just say it. Okay. So, one time that you can celebrate, just throwing out ideas, when you have conquered the blank page, when you put down your first sentence, heck yes. The page is no longer blank. You are underway. You have started the dang thing. Word counts. I just like to get a sticker, just a sparkle sticker every 500 words that I do.
Mm-hmm. Good
So I
point.
put those in my journal. I have had the same sheets of sparkle stickers for 3 years now. Still going strong. They've lasted a long time. When you finish a chapter, whether it's outlining the chapter or writing the chapter, heck yes.
Heck yes.
When you finish an act of your story, heck yes.
Mm-hmm.
When you finish your novel, celebrate to your heart's content. Whether it's the first draft or final draft, doesn't matter. Celebrate.
I would like to reference the opening 2 scenes from Romancing the Stone. When she finishes, like there is, of course, my favorite scene, which is in her story, in her Wild West romance. And that was the end of Grogan. The man who killed my sister, then shot my dog, stole my Bible, and all that. That's wonderful. I love that scene so much. I know every word. I literally say along with every single word of the script. But the next scene is you see her typing the end as she's sniffling. She's just so happy. And then she's like, Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo? Romeo is her cat. He comes calling. And then she's like, let's celebrate, honey. I finished the novel. And she's opening up a can of tuna. And she is like going through her huge collection of airplane liquor bottles. And she's like, here we are. Here's your food. Here's my drink. Yay, we'll celebrate. But to her, she's very happy. You could see on her face. She is genuinely happy. Mm-hmm. She started a fire. She's lit all the candles in her living room. The cat is eating on a pretty piece of china. He's eating his cat food on there. She put a piece of parsley on his cat food. Poor thing now has to eat around it. Well, she's drinking her Cointreau straight. Okay, honey, you live your life. And she is just vibing. She's put on her stereo system, and she's just feeling the moment of accomplishment. And I don't think enough people do it. I would really like to encourage everyone, if you don't know the scene I'm talking about, you can find it on YouTube. It is fantastic. It's scored by Alan Silvestri.
Oh, I love it.
Yes, me too. And this was his early days when he was still young and hungry. And it's just this wonderful score of this writer in her moment, just celebrating by herself because she's an introvert. She doesn't want to go out. It's only later that she's like, oh God, Gloria's waiting for me. I got to bring the manuscript. And Gloria, of course, her publisher, it wants to meet at a bar because she wants to get her writer to go on a date with a human being. To which the writer's like, hard pass. No, look at all these men. And Gloria has already dated every one of these men at this bar and has not nice opinions about him, which are probably earned. Let me be honest. If you watch the movie, which I actually recommend, because it's a really fun romance adventure. Like, it is just a fun movie, honestly. But the beginning stuff, that is, I believe, the third scene. And Joan is just like, especially after Gloria called one man a, quote, Mondo Dismo. What is that? Okay. Have another grasshopper. No, Gloria, I don't want to have another grasshopper. Y'all, if you know what's in a grasshopper, I too do not want to have another grasshopper. Ugh. There's creme de menthe in there, and there's cream. Why is this a cocktail? Why, Lord? Why?
I have grasshopper.
Are you not an old lady yet?
I am not there yet. I am still middle-aged. I am in the flush of my peak cougar years, apparently. But again, like this, let this be an example. This movie, Remains in Stone, is really especially the beginning before she essentially, what is it in the hero's journey? The what is it? The quest into the underground or something? I can't remember what.
Into the underworld.
The underworld. So this is Joan before she goes in the underworld. i.e. South America, no comment. White people gonna white. Okay, anyway. But before that, like, this is the writer life. And I would like, honestly, relatively speaking, it's a rather functional writer life. She is a successful writer. Again, when I say successful, she feels successful. She's got all these posters and standees of her favorite character up in her house. She loves what she does. She's got playlists she listens to while she types. Mm-hmm. She's got, I think it's an IBM Selectrix. I mean, good job, ma'am. She has a lovely electric typewriter. This is the 80s. Okay. And she has a Manhattan apartment with a fireplace. Yes, this woman is living her best life. And she has a wonderful orange tabby cat that she calls Romeo. And they seem to be both very happy together.
Yeah.
It's a great life. Feel the moment. Feel you vibe in your moment of success.
Yeah,
Keep going, Laura. Sorry to derail.
it was beautiful.
Thank you.
So another time to celebrate is every publishing step. Every edit pass done, every cover reveal, whatever. Celebrate. You did it. And if you want quick dopamine hits, write some flash fiction. You type the end a lot sooner than if you're writing a novel.
Mm-hmm.
And then my ideas for free or low cost rewards that you can give yourself: sparkle stickers.
Puffy stickers are great too.
Yes, puffy stickers, unicorn stickers, whatever floats your boat.
Oh,
Maybe it's Avengers stickers. Maybe it's Mickey Mouse stickers.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I like to do is FaceTime with my sister and my nephew and do tea parties. So I already have the tea. I pull out the fancy hat I bought in England, and my nephew has his Kool-Aid or his chocolate milk, and my sister and him share their little bowl of M&Ms for their meal, and yeah, we just have a little tea party on FaceTime.
Nice.
You can rewatch a favorite movie. You can take a bath by candlelight. You can have it be tea candles, whatever. Candlelight. So nice. You can make a YouTube short or an Instagram post announcing your success, your win. You can eat your favorite meal, whether it's waffles for dinner or whatever. You could go for a walk somewhere beautiful. You could go out and stargaze. One thing that I've done is to have a fireworks night on my TV. So there are the Disney fireworks shows that they film, and so I'll put that up on my TV and have my Minnie Mouse ears on and eat my Mickey ice cream sandwich from my freezer. So I'll have my Disney fireworks night. That's really fun. But telling someone your success can really be a nice hit of dopamine. Like, share your success. Maybe you want to bake something. One thing that I like to do is post a snippet of what I wrote somewhere, because I did it. I want to share it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've got the dough, the cash, maybe commission some art of what you wrote. So those are all my notes.
I feel
Roy
like,
had a thought.
yes, that one of the points that's not made often enough about celebrating. And oddly, I get this note from way back when MTV played The Pickup Artist. And it's, you have to change the environment. You have to make an entirely new memory location for the celebration. And it's easiest just to go to a different location, but it can also just be, as you talked about, FaceTime, of a very different feel and moment to have. To let your brain know this is an accomplishment. This is something to be happy and cheerful and joyful about, and we are proud we did this. We are looking forward to the next time we're able to do this. But it has to be suitably different. You know, hence, you know, in Romancing the Stone, Romeo eats off the china.
Mm-hmm. And she's drinking out of her crystal goblet. Like, they're eating on the fancy stuff because this is a celebration.
And there is absolutely nothing wrong with having your celebration accomplishment, what would you call it? You know, dinnerware.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, this is the cup I drink out of whenever I accomplish something.
Mm-hmm.
As a way to tell the back of your head, we accomplished something. We set a goal and we met it. This, you know, it's wonderful.
I may have a ghost goblet that was sent by somebody very amazing that is used for this purpose.
But yeah, like, we often really don't acknowledge enough of we need to celebrate when we accomplish them.
You need to feel fancy. You've accomplished something. This is absolutely the moment to celebrate it. Because if not now, when you've accomplished something, when? When you feel like celebrate? No. You're not going to feel like celebrating till you're already celebrating. The kitty torture starts.
Well, the bigger part of this is a lot of people, especially who are new to writing, do not understand the treadmill that writing is.
Look at that.
There is always the next thing.
It is a treadmill.
And so if you're not marking your milestones, if you're not taking a moment to be like, hey, I know who this character is now. Usually one of my favorite early ones, because I get like a vague idea. And then I have to figure out who are these characters? Who are they? Why are they here? Why are they doing this? But if you're not celebrating that, because the moment you finish, well, I've got my protagonist done. Well, now I need to work on the other characters. And it's a treadmill. And you just move on to the next and on to the next. And it feeds the illusion that a lot of writers get into. And I know I am very susceptible to this, where you don't feel like you have accomplished anything. Because, well, yeah, I got that character done, but do you know how many more characters I need to get done? Oh, I got that chapter done, but do you know how many more chapters I need to get done? When all you're looking at is that hamster wheel of content creation. It's mind-numbing and it's soul-crushing. Like, this is a good path to simple burnout. When you're not taking the moment to realize, oh, wow, I did a thing.
An odd thing to bring up, I know, but I feel like it is very germane to this, is a few shows ago, Gloria and I were talking about Disney Pixar shorts. And I can't remember which set of shorts it was, but it was the one of 20-something. Maybe it was Spark Shorts.
Yeah, it's a Spark short. Where just 3 kids in a trench coat.
And this sensation of, I can go into and participate in adult stuff, but I don't feel like an adult. And part of that is because we don't demark when we have those moments of accomplishment, versus you see her friend who, at the end is shown also to be 2 or 3 kids in a trench coat.
Yes.
Of the, let's just celebrate, we're here. We made it. We are pretending to be adults and no one else is really noticing. That's cool. Look at this. That is great.
And that's all anyone is, because then you see like the whole dance floor is all just kids dancing. That it's everybody feels like a child. They feel like their younger self, insecure, vulnerable. They have no idea what they're doing, but they want to have a good time. And that is all any of us are. But so in my research about positivity, do you know I have to do it now again? Well, there we go.
So soft.
So fluffy. That one of the things they found about emotionally resilient people is they celebrate all the little wins instead of just waiting to celebrate the big wins. If you would like to be emotionally resilient, and wouldn't we all, because emotionally resilient people make it through the marathon called life, then it is definitely a new practice you need to work on. It's something that, like, I talked to Tom about. When Tom and I were growing up, when we were young children, our parents did not celebrate the little wins. They did not celebrate, even when I would get 100 on a test, they're just like, okay, that's it. That's literally all I would get. Okay. No, good job. No, we're putting it up on the refrigerator. No, nothing. And it was really like all we got was the stick and no carrot, was how it felt. Of, we're going to get yelled at if we get B's on our tests, but we're not going to get rewarded for getting A's. And at least, like, some of my teachers would at least give me a sticker for getting an A.
Oh.
But so as adults in our 30s, we had to retrain ourselves by learning to cheerlead each other and our own selves for all these little wins. Oh, look, we now have not one, but 2 pits. Look at it.
Keeps trying to get me to go bring out the red dot.
Yeah,
It's
she
like,
wants
this
to
is
go
not
back.
the time.
It's always the time, Tom. I need to work on a new layout, I see. You two are big, and we are small. Oh, nothing like a little cat torture. It's good times.
It's how they know you love them.
Is that it?
Yes,
But
it's cats, yes.
But yeah, it felt like, let me tell you how weird it felt when we first started trying to celebrate our little wins for each other. How did it feel? It felt like, have you ever stuck your finger in your belly button? And it's that weird feeling. Or you ever stuck your finger too far in your ear and it's like, oh, no. It's that weird feeling. It really felt wrong when we first started doing the, like, celebrating the little wins. Like the time at the library when I found out that I was hands down had the most earned certifications for continuing education out of my entire public library system. And I'm like, because I had turned in 22 continuing ed certifications that year. And I'm like, how much is the next person? Like, you look at me funny when you say that. My manager looked at me real funny when he told me this. And he's like, I don't know. I'll contact the director and find out. Director comes back. The runner up. 4. And she had been the reigning champion for 14 years, by the way. Yeah, 22.
Versus,
So,
I have to admit, CB actually has the right way to handle this. The year before, when she failed the clarinet, they made herself watch Avengers 1 through 4 and got KFC. And her mother got her, set her an Amazon card. It's a setback. It is not the end.
And just going back to the treadmill analogy, it's very important not when we say don't wait till the end. There are a lot of reasons for that, but if you are a writer, there's another treadmill to hop onto. Once you finish a book, there's the next one. I mean, how many of us have been halfway through a book and already started thinking about and or working on the next one? So you have to pick the milestones that you are going to be celebrating, because they will just pass by. They'll just move off in the distance, especially now that everything can be scheduled and timed, and most writers can even schedule their KDP books when they're going to come out. So even that could autopilot. You can schedule all of your social media post marketing on it, so that could autopilot. It's so easy to let all that just wash over us and not have any moment of celebration because, well, that's done, but now I have to do book 2. Or I have this idea for this other book, or whatever it is. There's always the next thing. There's the marketing that has to be done. There's always going to be the next thing. Like, we are perpetually, especially as creatives, in this world where it's that bad meme where you're sitting at your desk, you think you're done, and then somebody plops in a whole bunch of stuff in your inbox. Because there's always going to be stuff going into our inbox, whether that's life stuff that needs to be taken care of, other creative things that are pestering our brain that we want to work on, excuse me, whatever it is. And if you're not being very specific about when and how you're celebrating, and they need to be celebrations to you, not to other people. This is one of those few times you need to be extremely selfish about this celebration. If you like sparkling apple juice, sparkling apple cider, and all your friends like champagne, you get yourself the sparkling apple juice and let them have champagne if they want it, but they can pay for the champagne on their own dime. This is my party. We're having the sparkling apple cider. Whatever it is that you like, don't try to make the other people happy. This is your party. This is your celebration. If you are not getting the joy out of it, you're defeating the purpose of having it. If your friends like to go to one establishment, but you like to go to the other, I'm sorry, this is the place where you go and eat by yourself if they don't want to come to the restaurant that you like, because you need to make yourself happy. Because if you're not giving yourself the dopamine, then the celebration will truly be meaningless. Like if you're not getting the joy from it. Because this is one of those times where you get to actually harvest joy for yourself. The work's already been done. This is the harvest festival after the work is done. You need to be there to actually get the joy out of it. And don't let anybody talk you into, well, I guess we should do this, or I guess we should wait till this other thing should happen. You know what? We live in 2023 and the garbage fire that is our world now. If you feel like you can't celebrate because something awful happened in the news, guess what? Tomorrow, something awful is going to happen in the news. Day after that, something else awful is going to happen in the news. You know why? Because we have global news now. We used to not know what's going on in all of these other countries and all the bad things that are happening around the world. We now know it all instantaneously. There will always be an excuse not to celebrate.
Mm-hmm.
You can easily talk yourself out of it. Now, don't make a pain out of yourself. If you're at a place and they're having a wake over there, maybe don't go out of your way to throw a party for yourself and be really rude and insensitive to people. You know, like have some basic decorum with it, you know, but understand that just because something happened bad to somebody else or in some other place, if you're in your apartment, nobody's going to know you're throwing yourself a personal party.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to tell everybody. You don't have to put it on social media. Woo, celebrate! While everybody else is in public mourning because a celebrity has died or whatever the tragedy of the moment is, because there's always a tragedy of the moment.
There is always.
And also, don't be afraid for the reward to be something that your inner child would have really enjoyed. Just so at least you can now experience what's it like. I mean, one, I didn't hear anyone mention, but I think it's definitely a very reasonable reward / consequence of finishing a project is get yourself some little item in a game you play on your phone or a system or whatever, you know, get an edition if you play a board game or something. But get an extra that you normally wouldn't and that you wanted as a kid.
Or maybe get a little minifigure of your character.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Or heck, go get a minifig made of one of your characters in your book. That's what Hero Forge is for. But I'm like, yeah, it can be something absolutely with no use in your life. It's just fun. It's something you would have wanted when you were a kid. Because when you were a kid, you could celebrate with abandon. And sometimes you need to be reminded of what that's like.
Maybe it's just having a dance party with your pet.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely. I love the confused look on pets' faces when you dance with them. They're not sure if they should go along with this or not, and they're debating how long they should do this before they think a treat should come. And they should start demanding one if it hasn't been delivered yet.
When I was a kid, we got pizza so rarely that anytime we got pizza, we would ask, what are we celebrating? And to this day, it's very much the feeling of like, ooh, let's celebrate. Let's get a pizza. And we'll watch a movie. And that to us is a party. And it's a real party if we also get root beer. Like, let me be honest here. Okay. Pizza, root beer, let alone root beer floats. Oh my God. Oh my God. We are celebrating big. And a movie we've been looking forward to. That is a party, y'all. That is a party. And we definitely always feel like in a good mood afterwards. But like for us, that is our childhood association with it. So you get the pizza we really want. So that means sometimes Tom goes to not one, but two different pizza places to pick up pizzas. Because sometimes I want something different from what he wants. And we're going to watch the movie. We're going to watch the movie. Don't forget, get the root beer so I can start icing it. You know.
Also like Eva's. That's something else to remember. Gifts aren't necessarily my love language, so I don't do tangible awards. It's typically permission to give myself time for something I normally wouldn't. As Charlie was talking about, it has to be something you, the celebrator, will be happy and enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's a Funko Pop or a day off just to do absolutely nothing, or a day to go hiking,
Mm-hmm.
or somewhere you normally wouldn't go. Or maybe, for me, since I drive around so much, it's something for a car.
Mm-hmm.
I'm driving, but it is something you yourself will see and enjoy and be reminded of, that this was a celebration.
The one caveat that I feel needs to be said here is do not tie your rewards to self-care unless you are very good with your mental hygiene. Because I see too many people doing this where, oh, if I can hit this goal, I will allow myself to have that face mask or fill in
Or
these.
eat food, period.
Oh my God.
Right.
Oh, God.
Self-care can be an
And I'm
adjunct.
talking about myself here. I'm not like, oh, you other.
Yeah.
No, it's me. I catch myself doing that.
Oh yeah,
That is so toxic.
It can be an adjunct to something. Like, I'm going to go out with all my friends. We're going to have a spa day. We're going to get our nails done. That's an event. That's different than just, I'm going to feel like a human for a moment. Like, you need to be very careful because I've watched so many people get stuck in this thing of, well, I can't fill in the nice thing, like the basic nice thing, because I didn't hit my goals. Like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. That's bad. And I've also had friends that have done negative rewards where if they don't hit goals by certain points, they punish themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I'm not here to kink shame anybody. Like, if that makes you like weirdly happy to do, okay, I guess more power to you. But no, just in general, no. Punishment does not breed creativity. It is not the ground bed from which creativity springs.
I mean, CB has a great point about, it's not a punishment and it's not a reward, it's a consequence. Because actions always have consequences.
I don't have any treats. I'm so sorry.
Like it's one thing if your reward is I'm going to take a day off from some of my self-care because it takes up a lot of my time. And this is how I can I'm going to give myself, permission to be a little slovenly for a moment.
But what if I'm slovenly every day?
A bathroom break is not a reward.
No, a bathroom break is not a reward. And the fact that I've had to say that to some people.
No names.
No names.
Let's not get guilty.
And believe me, I understand how hard this stuff is. I refuse to really talk or discuss that much, with most people, my weight loss. Just because I don't know how to talk about it in a positive way. Because that was not how Gloria and I were raised.
Mm-hmm.
But I accomplished the goal I was setting. I'm now literally at the same weight I was when I graduated high school.
Congratulations.
Nice.
But talking about it and discussing it is surprisingly more difficult than I was expecting.
And Spencer, I'm not saying that they can't be self-care related, but they should be special and not the routine self-care that you start denying to yourself because you haven't hit your goals. Maybe it's an extra special fine face mask that you would not normally do. Maybe it's a special, really expensive nail polish or nail design that you go and have put on that you would not normally do for yourself. But like
maybe it's bath soaps stay in the shape of flower petals that you sprinkle on your bath.
So years ago, there was a fellow writer in town I was friends with. She was like mom of like 5 children. And she was just a lovely person. Just a really sweet soul. And her reward for finishing writing her manuscript was she was going to buy herself a new dress, which I was like, oh, cool. That'll be great. You know what? When you finish, and then when she finished it, I was like, oh, great. Did you order the dress? She's like, I'll get to it. I was like, well, look, why don't you meet me at, this restaurant? I'll buy you a drink and appetizers or something, because I knew her children's schedule, and her husband was going to have all the kids / the other kids were going to be at various things. It was like she had Saturday afternoon, I knew her schedule. She had 2 hours off. And I'm like, just meet me for like 45 minutes or an hour and we'll celebrate. I'll invite some of my other writer friends over and we'll all celebrate you. And she's like, no, I can't. Why, girl? I know you ain't got nothing to do at home. And don't you dare tell me because you need to clean the house. Don't you dare do that. And she's like, she did not want to tell me why. And I'm like, just not want to celebrate with me? Y'all, the reason I'm not telling you her name is because she told me why. And the real reason why she couldn't go out was she only owned 3 dresses and no other outside clothes. And every one of her dresses either had huge stains or rips in them. None of them are really for proper outside. And I am like, I thought this was just a pretty dress. I didn't know you are desperate in need of a wardrobe. Girl, we got to like get you to the thrift store or something and get you some clothes. Why don't you, instead of us going to have appetizers, how about we go to a thrift store and I will help you find clothes in your size and we'll do that. And she was so embarrassed. She didn't even want to do that. And I'm like, but we need to get you outside clothes so you can go out of the house. But like, so that is what I think about every time someone says something about be careful of like hinging your self-care on a reward system of no, when you are so low in clothing that you don't feel like you have anything, you can literally go out for like 45 minutes or an hour with friends in the middle of the day when nobody cares what you're wearing anyway. And you still don't feel comfortable because you don't have anything that you feel is presentable enough. No, that is, you need to have you need to have enough clothes so you can live a life. And then make a something you want, like a dress or slacks or a top or whatever, a reward if you already have more than enough. And this is just the cherry on top of the frosted cake. Like that's where something as a reward is, you already have enough. And this is like an unnecessary purchase. This, you already have plenty of skincare items and you still want to buy a new thing. Like, you don't need more fill in the blank. You just went and got your hair done this month. And so, but you're going to go again to celebrate. Like, that's the difference, is you already have your needs met. This is just superfluous. This is not necessary, but you like it because it makes you feel good and it's fun. That is the reward.
I'm making somebody else wash my hair.
Yes. Somebody else brush and wash my haircut. Thank you so much. And then if you could style it, that would be great.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but not that you need this for just general maintenance of yourself. Like, therein lies the difference. If you don't have enough of a wardrobe to go live your life with you and your friends and your family, you need to first do that, and your friends will definitely help you celebrate that by, like, again, as I said, hey, why don't you come with me to the thrift store and help me find clothes in my size that might look good on me while I try on everything. Hopefully you have friends like that. If you don't, we need to get you some. Because everybody needs that one friend who's like, I shall scavenge this thrift store for you. Everybody needs a friend like that.
That used to be my job for so many people. How many times did I do that for you and Mom?
Yes. And I've certainly done that for friends, people I barely had known, honestly. And it's like, okay, you look like you're in this range. We're going to try. And I would just pull multiple sizes of the same thing and like, let's see this on you. Try something. If it's too tight, put up. I'm the one who put everything back on the hangers. You don't worry about that. My job is put on hangers and to go scavenge for more clothes. That is my job. Because your job is the workout that is trying on clothes and taking them back off. Oh my God, it's a total workout, yeah. As well as like essentially the long dark tea time of the soul of the mirror that you have to constantly look at, and you're supposed to be judging the outfit on you, but really, let's be honest, you're looking at your thighs and your butt. You're totally looking at the jiggle going, let me just smack it again and see what happens. How long does the jiggle last? Which you know you're not supposed to be doing, you're still doing it. That is why you need someone else out there running interference, scavenging in the store, and also putting everything on hangers. Because ain't nobody got time to both time the jiggle.
Is that what you're doing when you take so freaking long between those?
That's what Mom was doing. And then she would do it to me if I stayed in there. She's like, let me do you now. And she would smack my butt and time it. It's terrible. And I'm like, look, if you're going to smack it, you should also like rub it a little, shine it.
Scandal.
And also, given the time that we're living in, procuring clothing for your trans friends is also a wonderful way to help do rewards. Because for a lot of us, it's not safe to go out and do the trying on in public.
Also, it can just be intimidating, even if you're at a cool store. Still, like, you have to look in the mirror. And if, you know, like, I get it. Dysmorphia is real.
Yes.
And, like, you're already shadowboxing demons. And then also you have to put things back on hangers. No. That is why you need friends and allies in there with you. Or at least out in the hallway by the dressing room. Of, like, that is why. Is so that you don't have to worry about that. And also, to be honest, when you have somebody who understands how troublesome the clothing game can be, it's nice to have somebody who could just laugh about, wait, what size is that supposed to be? Oh my God, that is missized. Somebody sewed the wrong label on that thing. That is not it. No wonder it was still on the rack.
Why are bra sizes different from company to company?
Why are bra sizes different from size to size in the same bra, same company? And why did the cup size change between double D and triple D?
Okay, so
like the cup really dramatically changes, and it no longer. Anyway, that's a whole. That's my.
Yes, Lori found out a new secret.
Yes, I did come up with a solution. Bra extender. So I take the smaller size, the band with the smaller cup size for double D. Because like a 44 double D, it is a much smaller cup than a 46 double D, where it actually the wire goes up 1 more inch on both the chest plate and the underarm, and it actually pokes my arm and it hurts. But if I take the smaller size and then I just put a bra extender to make it 46, it's great. And y'all, some of y'all have already seen my rack, and you know. I have a very nice little jiggle factor. Anyway, on that note, how about we go to a sprint?
When we come back, Charlie will tell us.
Be very kind to yourself when stuff comes in, because on the dysphoria is the thing. I don't know whose bright idea it was to have kid sizes and adult sizes use the same XXL labeling, but I can't tell you how many times we have ordered clothes that were clearly marked for adults, but they sent us the kids' sizes. And when you already have body dysmorphia and you pull out a 3X shirt that is so tiny that you can't, like, I don't think this will fit on my head. Like, whoever thought of making these sizing conventions, like whoever packed the box clearly pulled it off the wrong shelf. But, that does murder to your brain. Like, wow, I've grown.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, sorry, Tom.
Oh no, I was just saying. Yeah, like we'll come back.
We're gonna take another short little 10-minute bio break, and when we come back, what are we gonna discuss? Anybody?
Well, I've still got a few other little things we can talk about of a few other goals of success I've heard of and how to reach those, including how to get the accolades from peers.
Mm-hmm.
There are specific ways to do that as a writer, and it's not what people think.
I mean, we don't have to impersonate the Black Widow when she's trying to get secrets from other people?
Okay, it might be closer to what you think than
Mustard.
I need to take this boy outside and feed him. So
Okay. Good luck finding street bread.
Thanks. Mr. Whiny Boy.
Okay.
Bye.
All right. We're going to take a little breaky break, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. Me bitty, me beep beep bitty. Me bitty, beep beep, me beep beep. Me bitty, beep 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 beep. Me beep 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 beep.
Coming soon from Glory Fink, the jazz album you didn't know that you wanted.
Oh, thank you, sweetie.
It's going to be called Glory Scats. It's going to have a really inappropriate furry on the cover.
I figured that we would have a secret song on there, and it's just fart sounds. Just a solid minute of fart sound.
I don't know if that can go up on Spotify anymore. They changed their definition of music.
Oh, you should totally be able to have special effects albums and stuff like that. There is a special place in my heart for special effects albums.
Okay, so any system that can be gamed will be gamed, and people found out that you could do. I think it takes 3 seconds on Spotify for it to count it as a play, and you to get money. So they were releasing albums of like hundreds of 3-second songs, and then playing them on loops.
Oh no.
So Spotify decided to completely overreact on the other side, and there's a definition of what is music now. So yeah, it's going to be interesting times.
Hey, Megan. Hey, Jules.
Delicious.
Well, I mean, can you tell I was just rewatching Schmigadoon in preparation for Schmicago?
I am way too excited for Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
I really want all the behind the scenes writer room video
Yes.
from this, because I need to know the shenanigans that were done in the making of both of these series.
Did you see the video? I think it's like a year old now. I want to say maybe it was Vogue of Single Paul and Dove Cameron on the picnic scene. And like literally going over how to position the melons.
Yep.
Of which way like the end blossoms will face. And like how big to make the salami. Or like would it in fact be a string of links that she just keeps pulling out like a magician?
Oh.
I love it's absolutely worth a watch. Honestly, totally worth a watch.
Schmigadoon is what pure creative joy looks like.
Yes.
It's one of the few things that gets made that is actually good, and that you could see everyone just like, oh my god, can you believe they're letting us do this? Like every actor, no matter what the scene is desperately trying to hide up this. Can you believe they're paying us for this?
Yes.
It's great.
I'm very excited. Yes, I'm very excited it got a second season. Like I would have been content with just the one, but now to have two. What?
Oh, but there are so many genres of musical I want them to do send-ups for. Like, oh, I have requests. I need the Phantom season.
Mm-hmm.
I need the Phantom season that can do like all of the like I always forget his name. The barber that fed people, he killed people and fed.
Sweeney Todd.
Sweeney Todd could be in there. The Hunchback of Notre Dame stuff could be in there. Like, there's so many of those. Like,
well, it looks like they're doing a Sweeney Todd reference in this one.
Yeah, they're doing. I saw in the trailer they're doing a Sweeney Todd reference in there.
I'm just saying, there's a whole creepy level of.
I believe Alan Cummings is playing.
Yes,
creepy element.
And there is a meat grinder in his barber shop,
like
taller than a person.
Right, and there's Melissa. What's her name? Going or Cicely Strong? Excuse me. Melissa's the character, and she's like, "Is that a meat grinder? A new one?" He's like, "Yeah, whatever." Like,
I'm just saying, I need the magical one. I need the we're hanging out in the apartment for no reason. They're just trapped in the apartment season.
I need this to go on long enough that we can just get Kristen Chenoweth to say as a character how much she hates the Wizard of Oz. That's just all I need to hear.
I hate the wizard. Like,
oh yes,
yeah. Yep.
100% yes.
Absolutely for this. I'm absolutely on board.
Oh, there's a cabaret reference, it looks like, in this season
Oh,
of
yeah.
Chicago.
There is both cabaret and Sweet Charity references I've already seen in the trailers, because they put out a second modified trailer. And there's a little bit more in that second one that's not shown in the first one. And there's also a behind the scenes trailer where they actually interview Cicely Strong and it's not Keenan.
That's Keegan Michael Key.
Okay. Look, I have dyslexia. Keegan Thompson, Keenan Thompson, Key, Peel, that other one from Good Bird. Like at a certain point, these names running together, I can't. Too many.
And to be honest, Keegan Michael Peel has too many names.
Yes.
Keegan Michael Key has too many names.
Yeah, like I can't keep up. I'm trying my best.
Save some names for the rest of us.
But yeah, like there's also a different trailer where it has behind the scenes stuff a little bit, and so yeah, they're touching on. Essentially, it looks like they're really kind of revisiting the other side of 60s and 70s. So they're doing a little bit of Godspell and maybe Jesus Christ Superstar as well as Hair. They're like revisiting those sort of hippy dippy kind of let the sunshine vibe musicals as well in there. I guess at that point where what's his name is on the run after he is framed for murder, like, yeah, there's already a lot they've put in the trailers. I have, in fact, watched them all. No, I'm not obsessive. I don't understand what you're talking about. This is a perfectly reasonable response. Very nice.
I hope it's a great cast. Like,
yeah.
Because that one is made by the cast.
Yeah. So, what were we supposed to talk about? I don't remember anymore.
So I was thinking two things I was thinking of over the break, and a little bit before. One, talking about understanding and being aware of what is success for what you are trying to accomplish is not always easy to even find out what is reasonable. Because one of the things I noticed, like we didn't actually mention, but I know Gloria and I had several discussions over many months.
Yes, of the YouTube channel. Like, and so it's something that Tom actually came in here during the break. It was like, you didn't actually talk about it. We need to talk about this. So, one of the things that I did not realize is at the time when we started Glory Writes the Blues YouTube channel, the numbers about what is, a top performing YouTube channel were no longer accurate. At the start, by the beginning of the pandemic, the numbers that have been available were more like mid 20-teen numbers, and things had dramatically changed on YouTube. In fact, they were right before the pandemic. They were talking about selling off YouTube. And it was really the pandemic that kind of breathed new life into YouTube. Because YouTube was getting a really bad reputation at that point in the late 20-teens for, being a place that just radicalizes people. And I mean, not that it's not still Spence was talking about YouTube got grounded in her house because it had inappropriate, really bad stuff for kids. That YouTube hadn't caught. So, but that was like, it had a more general reputation like that. The pandemic, though, with live streaming, really kind of gave it a shot in the arm. But at the time, we did not know what was now in 2020 and 2021 considered a successful YouTube channel. And so I was absolutely floored when one day Tom comes in. And this was right after we'd been monetized, which really took us, I don't want to say it took us by surprise because we had been working toward it at that point for over a year. But I had actually, by that point, I hadn't seen the success I was expecting. And so I had sort of kind of given up on getting monetized and just be like, well, we're just going to just keep chugging forward because what else am I going to do? It's, we're still deep in the pandemic. and we get monetized, and it's not how great I thought it would be, but it's okay. And I think, what was it, January? So we got monetized right around Thanksgiving of 2021. And so January of 2022, Tom comes in one day to say, did you know that our channel is in the top 10% of all YouTube channels? And I'm like, are you fucking with me? That's not nice to fuck with me. What is this hellscape we live in now? That we are in the top 10% and we are barely above 1,000 subscribers. He's like, no, I looked at our numbers. YouTube just came out with some new numbers. And because, like, when we live stream, like right now, where right now StreamYard is telling me we have 15 eyeballs. We have 15 sets of eyeballs right now. People are, hello, everybody out there on the internet. We're really happy you're here. It's so nice. But we normally are, when YouTube their viewership is up, our live viewership for this podcast is between 12 and 20 viewers. And I thought that was quite modest. Like, I'm proud of us, but not necessarily impressed. Hi, Ann. Because I just thought this was normal, because I thought this was normal. And then I come to find out, oh no. 12 to 20 live eyeballs at the time in 2022. Simultaneous eyeballs or channels, other accounts watching, is comparable with people who are between 100,000 and 500,000 subscribers on their account. We are definitely in the top 10%, if not actually sometimes we veer to the top 3% in some of our performance. But we don't feel like we're big mockers. We don't feel like a big deal. We certainly don't necessarily feel like a success. By the way, I'd like to point out that we have been monetized on YouTube since November of 2021 and have not yet gotten a single payout, which means we have not made $100 in revenue yet. And we're in the top 10%. Are you kidding me? That, again, it's not that we're delusional. We have valid reasons why we're like, wait, we're in the top 10%. We still haven't even gotten a single payout. Not a single payout. Whereas we've gotten 3 payouts on Twitch already in the same time frame.
This is where I'm like, you got to get into music. It's all about the music. I've made so much more money from YouTube Music because with their contracts that they signed with BMG and ASCAP, they have to pay me whether I'm monetized or not. And they have to pay me no matter where my music is used. So anytime one of my songs appears in somebody else's video, I get it's tiny little cents, but I still am getting it. And when I look at how some of my stuff's doing, I feel what you're saying. When we got our Twitch year end last year, because I look at what we do on Twitch as like, we're this tiny little Twitch thing. We're not really doing much of anything. It's fun. I really enjoy doing it. We have people that are there, it's great, whatever. And it's just like a fun hangout in public. And to find out like we're in the top 1% of Valheim streams.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What?
The developers might actually be listening to what we say.
Yep.
That's a scary thought.
Especially your fetching. But anyway, yes.
But it really doesn't feel like we are anywhere. Like I never would have picked a percentile that high. You know what I'm saying for where it is, and it's because a lot of this it's sample bias in that when I think of a big stream, I'm thinking of like when Ryan Hall was streaming on Friday during the storms. There were, I think, 150,000 people watching his stream live. Right. And you think of some of these like astronomical streamers, right? And you're looking at their numbers and it's in the we're talking about TV, like basic cable numbers of people watching. And I'm looking at that thinking like, well, that's doing kind of okay. Mm-hmm. Because again, like I was saying with my life previously where, I didn't understand that 20K for podcast was a good number of listeners. Because again, I'm stuck in TV mode, right? Mm-hmm. I'm looking at my numbers and I'm going like this, they had to make an error, right? Like this can't, it was sheer disbelief. Because when you actually look at it, if you're streaming on Twitch or YouTube and you have one other person, and it's not you monitoring your own stream, watching, you're already in, I think, the top 50 on both of these sites.
Yes.
Because it's something like 50% of the streams that happen on these sites have zero people watching them.
Yep.
That does things for your mind. And that's why I try to get people to understand, like, when you are sad because I sold a book, do you know how many books did not sell a book? Like, it's really hard to break into these industries, especially where there's so much noise. There's so many people out there. Yeah. I tend to agree. It depends on how you have them set up and how you have them how evergreen the content of them is. So
I would like to point out that what we did, just because we are talking about live sessions real quick, we did find a lot of success both using TubeBuddy to let us know which tags are good, which ones are working, and also ChatGPT to give us more insight into good tags. And those, so we saw about a 1/3 increase just from using TubeBuddy and kind of tweaking our tags using TubeBuddy, and really trying to kind of aim more toward what TubeBuddy greenlit. And then we saw, after using ChatGPT tags, literal double in views on our live podcast. So I would like to suggest, and remember, we get our show, our podcast ready the Wednesday before the Monday show. So those tags have time to work. And I would again like to encourage everybody who does any live streaming on YouTube to try this style that we're doing. And by the way, you can use TubeBuddy, the free account. We're still using the free account. Although we would like to thank the anonymous person who paid for the paid account on TubeBuddy and used our affiliate link, which is down below in the little description. Thank you so much. Because it turns out we get 30% every month, not just a one-time 30% of what they pay. So thanks so much. Whoever you are freaking fantastic. That's $1.50, by the way. It's $1.50 for that we are getting from somebody's paid TubeBuddy account. But again, you can actually get quite a bit out of TubeBuddy just from the free side, and ChatGPT as well from the free side. And I just like to encourage anybody doing those live sessions to really take advantage of the tag system. So it is true that tags are not directly helpful, but they are indirectly helpful in this regard. Tags are what the advertisers use. And so if YouTube can make money off of your account, whether you're monetized or not, they're going to push your account more if you're using tags that advertisers are looking for. And that is how tags are useful.
Also, the transcript is what's generally used to figure out where you should appear in search. And until you've gone live, you don't have a transcript for them to rely on. So they're going to rely on your description and your tags so that people can hit that, notify me, and get there early. And you might be asking yourself, like, but I thought this was a realistic guide to writer success. Why are we talking about live streaming?
Because you can't talk about writer success without talking about platforms now.
Yes.
Them's the rules. I did not make these rules, but these are now the current rules.
Whether you want to be doing traditional publishing or indie publishing, you need to be thinking about what your business looks like, what your platform looks like. I mean, the hardest thing for me to realize in going forward with, if I want to make money off of my setting and get the maximum number of people in that I am wanting to get in. Is everything okay, Tom?
Kitty has claws.
Ah.
She is feeling a little frisky. Yes, she got me Friday.
Yeah.
So it was the moment that I realized that for a lot of the work that I'm wanting to do and the way that I'm wanting to try to build an audience around it. I am actually a game developer who is writing tie-in books to my own setting.
You're going to achieve that dream one way or another.
One way or another. Because the way I found people getting drawn into the stories when I start telling them about it, I keep getting the same response from people. I want to play that game. Because I know a lot of people that love tabletop role-playing games. And I keep hearing the same thing. And so the stories are going to be out there, but I have been in process of developing a tabletop role-playing game for this setting. So that, okay, well, if that's how you want to support me, if that's what you're wanting, here, that's available too. And so, again, if part of your dream, if part of your success requires you to make income from the thing that you're doing, you need to start asking yourself, well, how am I going to do that? How are people going to come in? I knew that for a lot of this type of fiction that I'm doing, it's very Saturday morning cartoons for adults.
Mm-hmm.
Like it needs that. It's very serialized in that nature. And so getting the podcast up and running was very important for my business and for my decisions and how I'm wanting to do things. And so this then becomes the new thing that I have to be thinking about for all of the projects is how do the games get set up? How am I going to be doing marketing and push for that? Am I kickstarting any of these things? And that's another thing to bear in mind. I don't have a large platform right now because Twitter is a ghost town. And that was the platform that I had built up the most before Elon Musk destroyed it.
And whatever it was left is now gone.
Yeah.
Because the front page now is only for accounts that are paid. So you will not be recommended to anyone who does not already know you.
Yep. So I don't have even the platform that I had built up, which is why I'm working on the Substack. I'm starting to do stuff on Tumblr again and a lot more on Instagram. But I have to build this back up. If you don't have that audience that's going to run out and support your Kickstarter right away, it is very hard to get funded for a Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So while, yes, a lot of games find success, it probably isn't the wisest idea for me to do a Kickstarter right now for V1. V1 is going to have to be a proof of concept to build a big enough audience that when, are you ready? Are you guys ready for version 2? We can go to Kickstarter and try to raise some money in that round. And so you have to start thinking strategically about the choices that you're making for the platforms that you're building. How is it going to feed into the success of your dream, of your goals for success? How are you going to get there, knowing which bridges you're burning along the path to getting there? Because by putting out an audio podcast of this book, I have burned its first audio rights, which we talk about rights all the time. They're a wonderful fairyland of magic where you just add a number and a mythical statement for a thing that you think could be a product, and then the word rights at the end. And wow, you magically have that right. So there's first video game derivative rights, there's audio derivative rights, like anything that you could think of making a thing out of, you have all of those rights, and they are magic numbers, first, second, third, fourth, all that fun stuff. But I've burned that. So I won't be able to sell first audio rights. They've been used. So going forward, I have to be very careful about what I'm doing. I can't have the podcast out there if I want the book to exist on Audible. Because if Audible knows that you have the book out anywhere in any other form that's not exclusive to them, they take 60% of your money. Right off the bat, sometimes more. For more on that, see the people over at the Sojourn who have pulled their book down from Audible. They have a channel on YouTube. Just search the Sojourn Science Fiction. You'll be able to find them real quick. They had to pull their book down because it was doing really, really good on Audible, but because it was not exclusive to Audible, they were not getting paid anything. They were even told at one point that they might owe Audible money for delivery fees. So you have to bear that in mind. So if I do want to produce an audiobook, woohoo, that's exciting. So if you do want to produce an audiobook, know that you have to have an exclusive version for them, or they're going to eat your lunch on it. So there's a lot that you have to think about when you're thinking about what does your writer business look like and what is your success, right? If you're wanting to have a big book on Audible, because they are one of the only places that audiobooks are out, right? You have to understand what the rules are in playing in that game. What are the rules in that marketplace? If you want to be really big in local bookstores and try to keep local bookstores alive, just having your book on Amazon, some local bookstores will not carry it. If your book is available in any way on a Kindle, some local bookstores will not carry your book. So you have to be asking yourself, when you're devising your idea of this is what success to me looks like, you need to dig in deep and see what are the rules of playing in that game. Honestly, my ultimate success, I want a series. Animated or live action, I don't care. I actually kind of almost prefer an animated one, even though that's less prestigious in America because we have issues. Because I think you could actually do my stories better in animation than you could in live action. But that's what I want. So to achieve that, I need to get as many people talking about it, get enough buzz around it, a big enough platform that one of the other companies that has the money to do that would come in and go, hey, that should be the next Shadow and Bone. Because there was enough buzz around that book, it's now a Netflix series. Same thing with the Heartstopper comics. There was enough buzz about them that they got picked up. So the name of the game for me, for some of those super success things for me, is how can I get enough buzz around this property that I can get a development company interested in making it into either an animation or a live animated or a live action series, because that's where I would love to go.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, again, learning the rules of the game. What is your ideal? Don't be afraid to think of what is your ideal success. If you could think of one person that exemplifies it, who had that success that you want. You know, for me, it's a tie between Jim Henson and George Lucas. I want to make people happy with my stories, and I want them to be out there in the most creative ways I can manage to get them out there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Well, I'm not good at making puppets. I'm very bad at doing voices. I am not going to be the next Jim Henson.
You would not believe the tea I found out about the puppets, though. They cause cancer, y'all. Like deadly puppeteer cancer. So there's a reason why Disney's not pushing the puppets. Like, if you want to die of liver failure, go work for the Muppets.
But since my goal is to have those larger audiences, where, like, I would love a Farscape type version of one of my stories or anything like that, I'm going to have to attract the interest of someone big enough to make that. So all of everything that I do business-wise, that's the goal. Sales are great, right? Not poo-pooing sales. I love it when people buy my stuff. I like when people support me on the various platforms. But the goal is to get attention and to get it in the right ways that will hopefully get me that series that I want.
So, start piggybacking badly off of the getting the attention of the people who would be able to actually make it. I was also thinking of the other thing we haven't talked about, people that are some people's view of success, is accolades. In this case, I'm not talking about awards to show family or others or to use for marketing, but, you know, of your peers, to be told that, you know, they recognize you as a peer. And that actually kind of coincides with, as well, getting the attention of those who can springboard your stuff to something bigger. And this is where conventions come in. For a lot of people, conventions are, you know, you get to go meet people you've seen on TV or in your entertainment and get to ask them your questions. For a creative producer, it is a place to go networking. Conventions are how you meet your peers. It is how you network. It is how you find out the tea of your profession.
Oh, yeah.
And it is occasionally how you also get assistance from others. But like, if you want actual accolades from your peers, go to conventions and befriend the other writers in your genre. Get to know them, and then you will actually get to find out what they think of your writing and where, it's great and where it can be better. If that's what, you are really looking for, conventions are the place.
Also, I have heard from writers that for them, success is insert name of best-selling author. If they read my book and they said, this is a good book, or I enjoyed it, that is all I need in this world. There is a way to do it. And it is through conventions.
Yep.
So what you do is you find out which conventions they'll be appearing at. They'll be doing panels or giving lectures or whatever, right? You go there, and you do not ask them to read your book. You say, hey, I really love your work. Can I buy you a drink or a cup of coffee or a lunch or whatever? And often there are these huge swaths of time where there's nothing to do at these kind of conventions.
Yep.
Not like for the talent, I mean, there's plenty of things to do for the convention goers. And they're like, sure, yeah, let's, especially if you have a car. Yeah. And then you just get to know them as a real human being. And you make a friendship. You listen, you ask, how are you? What is going on? What do you think of the city? Yes, are you having a good time? Whatever. You ask the normal stuff, and you build a friendship. At some point, probably weeks to months down the road, they'll be like, or even at that lunch, they ask, so what do you do? And it's like, well, I write as well. And they're like, oh, cool. Anything I would have heard about? And you're like, well, I do have a book out. It's on Amazon. And they're like, oh, cool. You might not hear back for months. But one day, that writer is going to get bored. And they're going to order your book on Amazon. And if they like it, they will message you back and say, hey, so I just read your book. And you're like, oh, okay. Did you have a good time? Or do you want your money back? And they'll be like, no, I enjoyed it. There you go. That is how you get the thing you want. There's a definite subset of writers who that is all they want in the world is the validation of, say, their favorite living author. And I know so many people, the story of this is literally how they went and got it. And it's the same story every time.
The number of people, the number of meals Stephen King has gotten this way.
That man never buys.
And Neil Gaiman, both. Just,
yeah.
Let alone Terry Pratchett. Terry Pratchett, even in the middle of writing Discworld in the 90s, wasn't actually making that much money.
No, he was bunking with Neil Gaiman because they needed to both save hotel money. Are you kidding?
And so, yeah, they were totally up for someone taking him out for a meal and chatting and just getting to know other people.
Mm-hmm.
And that is where a lot of people got the, oh yeah, I know them. I've got a few stuff signed. We occasionally still write, but it was, I kind of wanted their approval for my stuff.
Often bourbon are also appreciated.
Yes. I have met many a writer because I was like, oh, how are you doing? We have bourbon. Yep.
Doing a little bit of light stalking, not real stalking, but like background research on what is there. I promise you, at the convention, there is somebody who knows that author's favorite liquor. All you have to do is ask the organizers, hey, do you know Neil Gaiman, who is here? And they're like, yes. Do you know his favorite liquor? And they'll be like, they will just know off the top of their head, because if they're good at their job, they will know what every one of their guest speakers' favorite liquors are. And then you go to the liquor store and you buy the good stuff. Or you go up to them and you go, hey, I heard you like bourbon. Which one's your favorite? I wanted to be sure to stock it for my room party for tomorrow. And they will tell you, oh, get me Dewar's. Get me whatever, whatever. Everybody's got something. Or they'd be like, I don't drink. I love Martinelli's. If you can find it, though, I would kill for a bottle of Martinelli's sparkling cider. You go out and get it. And then you come back and you're like, I got bottles. Find me. I'm in this room number. And I will have it in the cooler, like, or whatever. And they really, because it's like you're at summer camp, but at a hotel. It's a very small kind of village-like social group. It is the best chance you have to get one-on-one. Yes, I have personally met, what was it, Tracy something? And the other one, remember Tom?
Tracy Margaret Weiss?
Yeah, that one. Because, like, Tom was really into their books for a while. Like, remember when she had her boy toy? That one, that other writer who eventually, like, I don't know, they separated, that one. Yeah, they used to appear at local sci-fi fantasy conventions that I had vendor booths at. So, yes, I have met all of them. I have met, what's his name? The one who actually wrote Muslim science fiction fantasy worlds. But I don't know if he actually was Muslim himself or he just converted, something like that. Remember, he's got like a normal American kind of name, like Gary.
It's been a few years. I can't remember.
You know, Larry something. Y'all know what, right? He did the Ring Worlds.
Oh, Larry Niven?
Yes, I have literally hung out with Larry Niven and he ate all my snacks.
Oh, that sounds like him.
At Crescent City Con.
Yeah.
Because my panel that I wanted to go to was canceled. And the panel that he was supposed to be at was also canceled because Tracy Wetsom and the other one were like, we'll just go long. And so I was like, hey, so I have snacks. You want some? And he's like, oh, yeah.
But also, this is why I also tell people, if you're going to conventions, look for ones that are inside hotels. Be careful of what I think of as signing conventions.
Or convention center conventions. Be wary of those.
Yes.
Especially, and the easiest way to tell if this is a convention where you can really schmooze or not and get to know them is, are there panels? Yep. Are there discussion panels? If there are no discussion panels at this convention, no. There's no place to schmooze. This is just a signing convention. You're not going to really get to know anyone. And
they're going to nickel and dime you on everything once you get to the door.
But if they've got panels where they want to discuss various genres and aspects of things, that is a place to get to know each other, to know the fandom. Like, it's also a good place to do research on your field of creative output.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's how, like, as a kid, I got to meet Dorothy Fontana and David Gerald and all of these, like, to me, like, gods, because I loved Star Trek. And these were all people that worked on both the original series and Next Gen, right? Like, because I was at conventions, I was at the panels, and they just happened to be there. And I'm like the only one in the room that's like, oh my God, that's Dorothy Fontana, because, writers are loving writers. And, I got a lot of good writing advice from her and from a lot of people in that class, because she brought me around and introduced me to her other writer friends. And there I am, this 11-year-old kid who's getting to sit around with, like, all of people who have worked on all of my favorite sci-fi things and listening to them talk about the business and the craft and the writing and the projects they're doing and this, that, and the other. Because yes, all writers are like this. Doesn't matter what tier you're at. We're all sitting around talking about, oh, I'm stuck on this character, or oh, I'm doing this, or what. Like, it's just how we are. And it's a wonderful, wonderful experience because you can learn so much that you're never going to learn from a book, because it's all the stuff that isn't in the books. It's why those 2 Sol Stein books I recommend, because that is the closest I've seen in a craft book to what it's like to hang out with a writer at a convention, because he's given the dish. He's talking about all of the stuff that's going on in the editing room and all of the stuff going on with the publisher and all of the little side quest stories that you may not feel are important because you're like, I'm here to learn how to write a book. The name of this book is How to Write a Novel. Why are you telling me the story about you and Ilya Kazan? I don't understand. No, that story is really important because if you get to the meat of it, it was getting over all of those issues that got the book done. That book wouldn't have happened if all of this other side politics stuff hadn't been done. And if you don't understand that, you don't understand the actual craft of writing. That's what a lot of the writers are talking about, especially at the conventions where they can compare notes with each other.
And that's one of the reasons writers show up to those, even when like maybe their airfare is not covered, but their hotel will be covered, so they still agree to speak, because they want to schmooze with the other writers. Or, you know, they're part of the, like, I don't know, Babylon 5 fandom, and this particular Southern fantasy convention, sci-fi fantasy convention, is going to have, like, somebody from Babylon 5, one of the actors, who's the big featured guest. Whatever, everybody's got reasons to go to these things, but the hotel-style conventions, where everything's going to be in one hotel, which are very popular in the South. You do not have to be from the South to attend Southern hotel sci-fi fantasy conventions or horror conventions or what have you. But that is where they are all about schmoozing. It's all about hanging out together. It's essentially like a 1 weekend summer camp.
Yep.
Only it's air conditioned, thank God. And it's fun if you actually want to meet people. And yes, it is also introvert friendly, because if you've got a hotel room there, you can just go back to your room whenever you need a break from all the people. But also know that the majority of people are going to be your fandoms, you know, that they're going to be into the same things you are. And so it's a really nice vibe. So again, we wanted to talk about the other side of the validation that sometimes all of us creatives feel a need for. We need a little bit of validation. There's nothing wrong with that, but do it smart. Find the good validation, not the empty validation. You know, find your peers. Whether you're attending the whatever it is, Horror Writers of America convention or the Romance Writers convention, or you're attending just a genre convention. And yes, there are romance book conventions just for readers, but essentially the writers will go because they can also kind of hang out with each other. And when else they're going to see all these other fellow romance writers and like check out and like, hey, did you find this agent was a sex pest? You know, those schmooze. It's fun. It's low key, like as far as like, it's not high stakes, you know, you're not having to be on the whole time. But the best ones are ones that are inside a hotel, where everything from the rooms to where the panels will all be in one hotel. So nobody has to leave if they don't want to. Those are the best ones because people really do just stay. If they leave, they only leave for meals. It's even better when it's at a hotel that actually has one or more restaurants. So sometimes they actually hold them at casino hotels, because they're going to have multiple restaurants attached to the casino that's attached to the hotel. But going to those kind of things, it really is a nice kind of community atmosphere. And also, you're inadvertently networking with other potential readers if you are attending in the genre you write in. And so you're still going to get validation, because you would not believe, how is it I go to a party and people are like, hey, are you Glory? And I'm like, yes, Glory Fink. Yes. How do you know my last name? Nobody knows me. And they're like, no. Oh, it is her. Come on, girls. Come on. We read everything you write. And I'm like, oh, what? Who even can follow? I don't put it on my website. And I also like let my website go. And now I can't buy it back. Whatever. That's a whole nother matter. And they're like, no. We always find a way. We just keep a Google alert for your name. Like, okay. But like this, honestly, they essentially accomplished the same thing. Was they got real up and close, and I'm like, come on, girls, let's go party to the next room party. Cool. We can hang out for a little bit. I mean, do you ever have any questions, or do you need me to sign anything, or do you want me to read something of yours? Like, and they're like, I need to take a minute. They just walk away for 10 minutes. Come back. I'm better. Okay. It's adorable. But yeah, you will find in a jungle of feeling like nothing, there are people who know about what you write.
And on that note, this is where it's really important to have an in case of emergency break glass for when somebody says something to you that is too impactful for you to handle.
Mm-hmm.
So, because we are very bad.
Hormone taxed. So someone else could run interference.
Oh, because not just that. Like, so we're very bad at judging our effect on others. Like when I say write down success, what you think is success, do that, because we are terrible of knowing where we're actually at with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And at one convention we went to, we normally throw a party in the same place every year. And when we got there was this guy there that none of us knew. It was an older gentleman. And he had, suspiciously, prepared my favorite libations. And walked right up to me, knew me by name, was like, I got you. We got this stuff for you. Knew you're going to have a party tonight. Let's have fun. And because it's a convention, and that's not entirely bizarre for a thing to happen, we just kind of rolled with it and had a good night. Everything was really good. As the sun is rising and we're starting to contemplate, like, should we see a bed before we have to do our panels the next day, he pulls me aside and tells me that apparently I was one of his son's favorite writers, that he had been coming to this convention for years. He had been buying all of my books. And as soon as he told me his son's name, I recognized the kid because he was always at the conventions. And his son had died in a car accident.
Oh, no.
And he wanted to thank me for how much joy that I brought into his kid's life, because his kid was queer. He was getting picked on in school, and the work that I was doing, and the fact that he was welcome at the events that we were doing, and he could just hang out and be a part of it and ask all the questions about, okay, but in the book, when this happens, what about this? Why didn't this? And basically not get involved. All of those questions made him feel seen and helped him get through. And he just needed to me to know how much I meant to his son, and that he's set up this entire basically party with all my favorite things, favorite snacks, everything, to say thank you. I was not in a place where I could emotionally handle hearing that, because you don't know when that's the story that the person's bringing to you. Like, it takes a certain type of narcissism to think, like, oh, this must be the person whose life I endeavored, I changed.
Yeah.
But, like, no one thinks of that. And it was both a beautiful thing. Like, I'm glad I could have been a positive influence on this kid's brief life and all that. But it was psychically destructive to me in the moment, because we don't know how to handle true praise. Like, it's one thing for somebody to say, I really like what you're doing, right? The kind of praise that he brought in that moment, I never even thought about. This was not on my radar of, here's something somebody could say to me. And so having people around you that can see, oh, Charlie just got shattered. We need to swoop in here and take care of things. And luckily I had a lot of friends around me that knew me and were able to come in and talk to him and basically talk on my behalf, as I'm like stuck in this like fight or flight. Like, how do I have no words for this. Like, saying I'm sorry for your loss is the most empty statement I could ever possibly say. You know what I'm saying? Like, really not knowing what to do in this moment. Having those people with you to help you get through is very important, because you don't know the effect that you're having. I thought of myself as a failure as a writer for most of my career. And I'm not saying that moments like that changed that for me, but they made me have to really evaluate, like, oh God, what am I putting out into this world that is actually having effects like that? Because I've had a couple people over the years stop me and say really heartfelt things to me, to the point where I'm like, you must be thinking of somebody else's book. Like, you have me confused for someone else. What book are you talking about again? Because it can be really hard to accept genuine, heartfelt emotion from strangers. And that's something that, when we're talking about this, yeah, it's great. It's wonderful to get those accolades, but have And in case of emergency, that somebody says something so nice to you that you are devastated as a human being for a little while, emergency plan.
Mm-hmm.
Because it can sneak up on you and just hit you, just T-bone you right in the middle of whatever you're doing. But, you still have appointments because you have panels that you have to do the next day. You have to get yourself back together. You have to look professional, or that could hurt prospects for other things. At the time that happened, I was working with a company to do a movie based off of one of my books that unfortunately fell through. But, so I couldn't look unprofessional at this event because they had representatives there. There's a lot that goes in to this. And it's, kind of be careful what you ask for and make sure that you have systems set up, because you might think you know how it will feel for an absolute stranger to come up to you and just say something nice. Like walking down a hall and a complete stranger go, "Oh, I like your book."
Mm-hmm.
Getting praise from friends and people hits you one way. Complete strangers saying nice things to you, it will hit you different. Like you can see from Glory's story, like, me? You know me? How do you know me?
I mean, if you've ever seen any of the Cars movies, you know that the main character has two groupies that dress up in whatever he's currently, styling. And they are his little cheer squad, and they cheer whoever's winning. You don't know when your own groupies will show up like that. And no matter what you think you can plan, you are not actually going to be prepared until you encounter the situation, and you don't know how you are going to react. It's just the reality of, you can imagine it all you want, but till you're there in the moment, you just don't know. So yeah, you plan for, if I'm unable to process stuff, who do I trust to go come help?
And in the situation that I'm talking about, luckily Pepper, Diz, and Brian were there, and they could see the deer in headlights look in my face. The, oh God, what do I, like, and we're able to just swoop in. Everybody who knows me at that convention especially had been there that night, knew that like they were the people closest to me there, and were able to talk to him and be like, "Oh, that's so wonderful. I'm so sorry," and say the things that I couldn't say.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm talking about when I'm saying make a preparation plan, Spence. It's not have like a detailed checklist in your phone that you can pull up, because deer in headlights is deer in headlights. When you get frozen, and you don't know what to do. You need to have those people near you that know, oh, I need to step in so this doesn't get worse, this doesn't escalate, because the worst thing that could have happened would be for me to fumble and actually accidentally say something insulting or insensitive, or this is what's going through my brain, right? I don't want to insult this guy, like, oh my God, this is such a heartfelt story, right? But having those people around you, that's a big part of the success plan, so that when something like that happens, you have somebody who can help. We can't do any of this alone, and having that tribe with you is very important.
I know one situation where even neurotypicals have been sort of coached to do this. And that is, most married couples at some point are coached by someone that they need to have a non-existent family member to ask their spouse about. That is the code phrase for, I need to talk to you, or I need to get out of this. I don't know what to do. And it does help to have that phrase with some friends of, if you ask about Aunt Mabel, or have you heard from Aunt Mabel, I'm expecting a text or something, is a great code, it's a great way to let others know of, I'm out of my waters. I need you here to figure out what's going on.
Because especially at a schmoozing event, people can be distracted. They might be talking to somebody else. They might not see that you are in distress. Mm-hmm. And like I said, this was a good distress, right? This wasn't like a stalker came up to me and like scared, and I was afraid for my life or anything like that. Though, have you seen the world?
Hmm.
You need to have,
I need you to drink this now.
yeah. Like when I was at a book signing, a lady came up to me with a letter from Theodore Kaczynski, who was apparently a fan of my work, and I never needed to know that.
Yeah, you could have gone your whole life without knowing that.
Yeah, apparently she sent him my stuff and he liked it and wrote me a fan letter, and I made her very mad at me because I would not open it, because I have a very simple rule of there's one person on earth I will never open a mail from. And
Like, of all the people, hard pass.
yeah,
If you've
You know?
abused a system, no, you don't get to use it anymore.
I don't think I was being unreasonable. She thought I was being very unreasonable. Luckily, I had people that helped me get out of that situation when it happened. Because again, you don't know the people that are going to show up for you. Having contingency plans is always an important thing, so that you're not stuck in a place not knowing how to get out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Yeah.
also why Glory and I, as friends, will, every 2 to 3 months, we send our friends who we haven't heard from for a while a "You still around?" message. Of the no worries or anything, just checking you're still around, which is why, you see Doll post more of those messages on Twitter and Instagram and stuff, of just the letting us know what she's up to, because she can't communicate that much.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have sent these messages of, hey, you okay? Everything good? And it's the, I'm in the middle of stuff. My brain has so little extra. Oh yeah, go check. That's why we check on our friends. We check on those we care about.
But again, not to like talk anyone out of attending conventions or anything. It's just one of those of, it helps essentially if you have somebody who has your back. That essentially, okay. So there's this problem I have when I go to parties. Tom calls them the bathroom ninjas. I will be in line to go to the bathroom at a party. And random people will come up and they will talk to me to the point that I don't notice the line has now formed around me and I have lost my space. And I'm like 2 hours later, I still got to go pee. And so if he sees that I have been snagged by a bathroom ninja, he will go run interference, like, go, the door's open, go now. I'm not like, okay, bye. But essentially having friends like that at various social gatherings who understand I may need you to run interference, that is just helpful to have. I highly recommend, especially if you're neurodivergent, that you cultivate those kind of relationships all over. And thankfully, most other neurodivergent people kind of understand, because they too have had situations with ninjas of sometimes you just need to run interference for somebody. And yes, I have done it. I have definitely asked a fedora wearing man, so what's your fandom? Oh, go now. Like, tell me all about miladying women. Does it work? It does, by the way, if you ask. So tell me all about miladying women. Does it work? And they're like, well, it's mixed. Do you have a saxophone or a guitar? Like, and they're like, well, if you're asking, I mean, do you really want to, like, please tell me, like, but like, again, I think it's just good to cultivate those kind of friendships where essentially you have a buddy at a party or essentially a social gathering who, anytime you're like, Mayday, help me, somebody's blocking my ability to go to the bathroom, they won't stop talking to me, I can't close the door, or whatever it is, there's somebody who's got your back. Or like, help, Mayday, Aunt Mabel, did she call? And they're like, let me come, who are you talking to? And they just suddenly like stand in front of you as you escape and go to the bathroom and have a moment for whatever bomb they've dropped on you. It happens in any kind of social gathering situation, or it can happen. That's all we're saying is you are so much more likely at these kind of conventions to receive praise. And if you are neurodivergent, that may be something that you are unfamiliar with, the experience of receiving effusive, uncensored praise. Because as neurodivergent people, we're often told freely how what we're doing is wrong, but we're rarely often genuinely praised for just being ourselves and putting out what we have to give the world. So to suddenly experience that, because guess what? If if you have not picked up on this yet, let me tell you overtly, conventions, these especially genre conventions, very much attract a neurodivergent crowd.
Yep.
So there's going to be more people who are also just being honest, putting out their truth in the world. And that includes praise. This thing that none of us are used to. And so it helps if you go with a buddy or you meet up a buddy there who, in case you need backup, you be like, hey, run interference. I need to go to the bathroom and have a moment to myself.
Also,
and then maybe play Candy Crush for 5 minutes. And then I can come back out.
The buddy system is also really important at these conventions because there's always that one writer that is the history teacher, the history of magic teacher from Harry Potter, who does not know how to tone their voice and has all of the stories that they want to tell you and want to tell you them right now, and is very sure that you are fascinated by whatever they are saying and gets absolutely no cues that you are done with the conversation and do not stop long enough to take a breath because they've figured out how to microdose oxygen in the smallest, tiniest breaths. So it's one long run-on sentence that has no punctuation in it for all eternity, that you need to have a friend that can come up to you and be like, oh my goodness, did you see this? And just drag you away. Because there's no point in running from them. They will follow. You can't just walk away. The conversation will follow you wherever you go.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it will.
So, it's just so of not to talk you out of it, because even introverts need to schmooze a little. And also, introverts, you need to get used to compliments and praise. And how will you ever desensitize if you don't get out there in the field? But bring a buddy with you. Also, it's helpful to have somebody who on the drive home and be like, can you believe they said this? And they're like, I know, I was there. It was amazing. It's nice to have somebody, kind of help you process at the end of the day or at the end of the convention, as well as who was a witness to all the things you experienced as well, including so-and-so actually talked to me. It was fantastic. And he took my book. He asked if I had a book. And I'm like, well, I happen to have a copy here if you don't mind it being dog-eared, because I was underlining stuff from my second book. And they're like, ooh, I'll mail it back to you. And you're like, can you believe it was amazing? And they're like, yes, I was there. I took pictures, remember? Yes, send them to me. I did already. It's so wonderful to have a buddy who can help you process through by listening, by being that sounding board. It's wonderful. And it can be part of what actually feels like a success when you get right down to it, when you start thinking about it. Honest to God, if Jessica Kellgren-Foster was like, Lori, I love watching your channel, I'd be like, ah! Did you know she knows that I exist? That would definitely feel like it. But, it's never been a goal of my life for Jessica Kellgren-Foster to know I exist. That's not a thing.
And Megan, I am definitely not coming for you. You know how to modulate your voice. I'm talking about there's an army of Henry Kissinger, Ben Stein clones in this world that have a very monotone way of speaking and do not know how to use punctuation or to stop and can somehow microdose oxygen so that there's no breaks of the conversation and they don't hear you when you try to speak up and interrupt them. There's a whole class of these people.
And versus Megan. You. Megan is just very excited.
Mm-hmm.
You have
enthusiasm, professed her voice.
You have code. I've met so many of these that we actually had a contest one year where we took pictures of them and showed the pictures because we were trying to figure out if there was one person who did a lot of costumes at the convention or if they were actually, in fact, multiple people. And that's how you gamify the weirdness at conventions.
It's true.
Because we were all describing what we were sure was the same person, but some of the little details didn't work. And because of the kind of personality this person has, it was very easy to say, hey, can we get a picture together? I would, of course, love to have a picture taken with you. This would be a great... Okay, snap the picture. There we go. And, and then we were all looking at our pictures going, oh, these are different people. These are so different. Oh, how many of them are there here?
Yeah, cloning is real.
Are these the aliens that are sneaking in trying to see if they're passable as human yet? Like, what's going on?
Yes,
I mean, that was sort of the bit for Dude, Where's My Car? It was valid.
So, shall we do final thoughts? Or should we do another sprint?
I think final thoughts would be...
Yeah, I'm definitely ready for final thoughts and a nap.
All right.
Charlie.
Final thoughts. Wrap them up. What you got?
Make sure that when you're deciding on your idea of success, it's actually your idea of success, not what your mother told you success was, not what your father told you success was, not what other people in your life think success is. What is success to you? Because we live in, I keep saying it, a capitalist hellscape that convinces us that you have to make a certain amount of money. If it doesn't make you rich, it's not successful. That's a lie. That is a bare bones lie. If your goal is to get rich as a writer, I'm sorry, you picked the wrong profession. That's just buy lottery tickets. Your likelihood is in the same realm for being picked as the chosen one.
Yeah, it's definitely wrong century to get rich as a writer.
Although Substack is definitely helping.
Substack helps a lot. But make sure that you are being genuine to what you want and interrogate all of the things that you're putting on your list of this is what success means to me. Always ask those questions. Why? Why? I want this. Well, why do I want that? Because you may actually want something that is adjacent to those. Like, I don't know how many people are into mind mapping like I am, but you may be accidentally doing the mind map around the thing that you actually want rather than the thing in the circle that everything's connected to. So constantly ask yourself that question. Well, why do I want that? Why do I want that? And drill down so that you know what you are actually trying to get out of this.
And yeah, a valid answer is because it feels right. That's fine.
That is 100% okay.
I mean, like, I realized several years ago that I am, in fact, the meme of a dragon that hoards people, hoards friends, that is my thing. And so, yes, one of my definitions of success is happen to know a lot of other successful people. I like that. I'm trying to collect the whole collection there. And that just means I know them and I have them in my phone. I like that.
And like Maggie's answer of, what else am I going to do? I have to tell these stories. That's also a valid answer. You might not want anything else other than getting the stories written down and putting them out so someone might read them someday. You may never want to put them out. That's a valid answer too. If you just want to write your own stories in your own books and have a bookshelf of nothing but books by you on the bookshelf that you wrote that no one else ever reads, do it.
You will not be the first or the last.
Yeah.
This is a real personality type.
Don't ever feel pressured to add to your definition of success other people's rules for what makes something successful. Whatever, like this is one of those few places in life you should really, truly Marie Kondo this. If it does not spark joy, it is not part of your definition of success. Whatever it is that you look at it and you can't help but smile. You imagine yourself being there and you can't help but smile. That goes on the list.
Mm-hmm.
And that's completely doable, especially with today. Also, I will put one other caveat in there because I say this all the time. AuthorTube especially is so hell-bent on this idea that writing a novel is the end goal of everything that we are doing. This is 2023, y'all. Your writing success may be on Substack. Your writing success may be making Instagram or YouTube shorts, because who knows if TikTok's going to be here for a while. After a while, right? Yeah. Whatever you want to write, whatever is the best fit for you in your writing, that's what you should be working at. Again, don't take other people's goals into your own if they're not yours. writing a novel is not the end all be all. If you just want to write drabbles to the end of time and just have a Tumblr blog that's nothing but your drabbles, and that's success to you, that is 100% valid. Do it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be doing a book.
Something else we didn't really hit on, but I feel like people don't hear often enough is, what is success now? What are your goals? Will change over time. When people talk about midlife crisis, they are leaving out the crisis, the life crisis they have almost every decade. Somewhere between 7 and 10 years, you will probably have grown enough as a person that your goals and wants have changed from what they used to be. And so you just need to reevaluate and figure out, all right, now what do you want to put your energy into? That's fine. It's fine also if you haven't achieved your goals in, however long it's been, and you're now reassessing and looking at new goals and going, I want to continue these goals and I'm going to drop those.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. That is very valid. If anything, that is healthy. That is avoiding what psychologists call sunk cost fallacy of, but I've already invested this time. I don't want to have it all been wasted. As Glory has learned and will occasionally tell people when she is not feeling her best. All the time she thinks she has just been treading water, wasting time, she will find use for those skills later on she didn't realize would be useful later on.
Mm-hmm.
There is never actually a fallacy of, well, if I give up on the goal, I will have wasted all that time. You won't.
Mm-hmm.
You will just find a new way to use those skills you picked up. But always be working towards goals, as Charlie put it, that make you smile, that are very, bring you joy. And don't be afraid to change them. When you realize, oh, this goal is not going to lead the direction I thought it was, I need to change it because I want to be happy with my goals, not, well, I did it.
Mm-hmm.
And if your goals are monetary, Patreon and Substack and coffee are probably your better ways to go than book sales.
Mm-hmm.
100% on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we hope this has been helpful with, what is real success for a writer?
The truth is, if you are striving, if you're trying to write, even if no one ever reads it, you're already a success. And I realize that can sound a little saccharine. And just because you could definitely hear in your head Mr. Rogers saying that doesn't invalidate it.
Mr. Rogers never lied.
Mr. Rogers never lied. And quite honestly, my personal opinion, I don't know when Mr. Rogers was ever wrong on the show, ever. But I do want to say this. Trying is good. And you're already doing better than a fair percentage of people who want to do but never even get started. So you're doing fine. Also, I have noticed that some younger people, millennials and Gen Z, do not like the term in the fullness of time. Tough cookies. Some things just take time. And I know that sucks when you're young or when you feel like you're running out of time. Believe me, I know. But some things just take time. And that doesn't mean it's a failure. Also, quite honestly, I don't know why everybody's against failing. Are you kidding? Every time you fail, you have eliminated one more way to do something. Failure is where humans learn. They're far more likely to learn from failures than successes. So as long as you are learning, you are living. I want to say I hate to be anti-mame here, but the truth is I do not hate to be anti-mame. God, yes, ma'am. Also, get me a Mr. Beauregard, please.
Preach.
But you already have one. Don't be rude. Some of us don't have a Mr.
Charlie's
Beauregard.
greedy.
Truly, greedy little bitches. But nevertheless,
I
life is a banquet, and most poor sons of bitches are starving to death. You need to get out there and live. And if you are learning, you are living. You're doing a great. So if you feel like, no, but I don't feel like much of anything, and maybe I am talking to myself right now, that's fine. The truth is you're already out there doing it. You're living your best life. You're learning, you're trying, you're living. What else is there to life? Touching other hearts, making other friendships. You're doing everything you're supposed to do. You are a success. The only time you should be worried is if you are isolating yourself, you're cutting yourself out from others, you're not writing, you're not doing anything creative, so the creativity in you is metastasizing into something negative. That's the only time you need to be worried, is when you don't give yourself a creative outlet. So as long as you're doing that, you are already being successful. And anyone who tells you different is trying to sell you something, princess. Keep that in mind, okay? And again, not that I'm trying to sell you anything, but did you know we have memberships? All right, I'm kidding. It just was right there, and I had to go there. But that is just really my point, is you're probably already doing fine, and you just need to stay the course. The one thing that most humans want to do is about 3/4 into a journey, they want to give up. This is a psychological truth. They have studied this extensively. Most of us feel this need because we get 3/4 and we think, oh, if I'm only halfway, oh, it's too far. Versus you're almost to the finish line. Just hold tight. So when you feel like giving up, that's when you need to ask, is this just because I feel like I've been striving too long? Or is this, I do in fact need to reassess my goals because maybe this isn't working for me and I'm in a sunk cost fallacy? That is very valid, and you should definitely do an assessment. But if it's just, well, I just feel disheartened, that is not the same as I need to change my goals. This is not working for me. And if you are finding that you are not getting the support you need, it is not necessarily that your goals are invalid or you're dreaming too big, honey. Like what? Anyway, it may be that you need to find better friends and family. I'm just saying, because most people I know in real life do not suffer from dreaming too big. If anything, they're suffering from dreaming too small, and then they're afraid of achieving it, because then what will they do with the rest of their life if they achieve their goals so quickly? It's like, did you hear yourself out loud? But again, rather than what you really need, most people, what they really and truly need, particularly if you are neurodivergent, what you really need is you need cheerleaders. Because you spent your whole life this far without cheerleaders. And neurotypicals get cheerleaders all the time. We don't. So if you don't have cheerleaders in your life where you tell them every little accomplishment and they're like, yay, excellent. If they don't do that, it is time to keep looking for new friends. And then you can decide whether to keep the old ones.
Preach.
All right. What to expect on next Monday's show. All right. I know Charlie's got meetings.
Oh, God, that is next week.
Yes, dear. I know. That's literally what Tom and I were talking about in the break. So what I'm going to talk about is something that, Charlie is doing fine with. Research and reference skills that writers need. It has been brought to my attention that many of our fellow author tubers and writers do not have their own personal research reference librarian like moi available to them, or they feel they don't, even though, hi, I am here. Do you have questions? Let me know. I'll try to find your answers. And so I know that many humans are loath to ask questions of other people. So instead, how to ask all the algorithms your questions and to get the answers. So if you have tips and tricks, please do come back next Monday to share them. We'd love to have you on, or you can give, your tips and tricks in the chat. Either way, please do come back next Monday. And we will all share all of our research and reference skills and what we have learned and where we go to learn our skills and everything. Like, yes, I do have a bunch of tips for how to approach Googling your questions. Like, there is a way to do it. Also, there is a reason why some people are more successful at using search engines than others. And it is not only being neurodivergent. Actually, it has to do with Google. So again, it's not your fault. But we will go over how to improve your chances of actually getting the answers to the questions you're looking for.
And since I'm not going to be here next week, my biggest tip that I can give you on this is if you're wanting to write a Monty Python-esque condescending lecture piece on a thing that is 100% wrong, get yourself a Google Bard account and ask it questions and just zhuzh up the answers a little bit because it's very wrong and quite funny. Not intentionally so, but it's very wrong and quite funny and extremely condescending.
Well, we'll see you next week. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.